your abundant blessings that you give to each and every one of us. I pray that you would give us strength, give us joy as we continue to help build this community to glorify you. We pray all of this in your wonderful name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much for the positive message. Thank you so much. Councilwoman Carumbo, would you lead us in the pledge this evening? I surely will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carumba. Here. Councilman DeWitt.
Here.
Councilwoman Carr.
Here.
Mayor Simmons.
Here.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Here.
Councilman Gibson.
Here.
Councilman Forbes.
Here. Great. Well, good evening, everybody. We've got a nice crowd this evening. Thanks for joining us. We're going to start with public comment on agenda items. If you would like to come up at this time to speak on public agenda items or public comment, agenda items.
Mayor, Council, Charlie Strader, Kent Road, Bonita Springs, for the record. Regarding the Dixie Moon project, first off, thank you for caring about our historic resources. I hope whatever discussion you have, or at least in your decision making, you will keep in mind to allocate or reserve some funding for what's it going to be when it grows up. In other words, what are you going to do with it? What's the use? To me, that's more important somewhat than exactly this or that as far as the structure itself. Because I think there's a potential to be innovative and make a nice small attraction for downtown. I couldn't tell in the memorandum really if my concept got up through. I think I sent you some photos in an email, but basically if you look behind the mayor at the Dixie Moon facade, that's what most of us think is the most iconic and needs saved. So if you imagine this wall over here being the facade, the original building had a canopy out front, so you simply put the canopy there, gives you something to connect to the wall so it doesn't fall over, and provides a nice shaded seating area that you can use for wayfinding, education, you know, whatever you want to do with it. And that's the key to the whole thing is it going to be inviting, attractive someplace. So I think it has a real potential. Regarding your comprehensive plan amendment for downtown redevelopment area, our comprehensive plan, as you know, determines what the downtown will look like for future generations. I trust each of you are aware that you will be approving the constructions of buildings in the Old Town corridor that are 6 to 7 stories high. I doubt many in the public are aware of the planning. The language on page 7 of 9, no Star Trek references, still permits that the buildings may be 65 feet high. Again, that is above the base flood elevation, only to the eaves, and then you add your roof. So now we're up 75 feet high. This does not fit with the public's visioning of downtown, nor jive with our branding of small town charm. If you doubt me, you can look at the data that the city has collected in the past, or just conduct a new poll. I think you'll find little support for 6 to 7 story buildings, and mostly only astonishment that the council would permit such. I guess we are fortunate that the upcoming project just north of the Wonder Gardens that spurred this comp plan amendment is only 4 stories high, not 6 or more. Developers often strive to maximize their buildings, so we cannot fault them when buildings appear above our tree line. Maybe the public will forget who gave them permission. And who knows, maybe far into the future, people will want 75-foot tall buildings to park their flying cars on. But I'm sure the majority of current residents do not want high-rises downtown. Now is the time to change the height number. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Thanks for being here. Other members of the public? Hi, Kathy.
Hi, good evening, everyone. For the record, Kathy McGrath. Just a short comment, and it's about Dixie Moon. You have to remember, I've been coming here for over 50 years, and I remember it. I defer whatever decisions you make, and listen to Charlie and the Historical Society because they're the experts on that, but we can't lose it. Let's put it that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Other members of the public? Hello.
Hello, Honorable Council, Mayor. One thing I'd like to say before I get into what I want First, I don't think it's said often enough. Thank you for everything you guys do. It's not an easy job, I know, and I just wanted to say thank you. It is appreciated. Secondly, I just want to speak in support of moving the Dixie Moon, the facade, as Charlie said. I think it's a good plan. It would make a good way station informational center for people right there in the center of Old Downtown. And again, I'd like to just say I support it. For the record, John Pano, President of the Bonita Springs Downtown Alliance.
Great. Thank you very much, John.
My name is Che.
Good evening, guys. Do me a favor, pull that down because we want to hear you. Thanks, guys.
Hi, my name is Che Garrido Giambo, and I live on Bel Rio Drive. And me, my friend, and my cousin cross West Terry every day to and from school. And it takes at least 5 minutes to wait for the cars to stop for us to be able to cross for the street. And some drivers speed up and keep going when they see us. It's not like they can't see us and we're invisible. They see us and they just keep going straight ahead. And sometimes drivers even curse at us when we're trying to pass.
Hi, I'm Nolan Zimmerman, and I live on Bel Rio Drive. Sometimes we're scared to cross West Terry because it's very dangerous. It is Florida law that you must stop at crosswalks if somebody is waiting. We need crosswalks so drivers know they have to stop for us to cross. We also need sidewalks on the south side of the road so we can get to the crosswalks safely.
I'm Benjamin Arsenault. I live on Driftwood Drive. As you may know, one of our fellow students was hit by a car near our school. So if you need help getting the crosswalks done, we are members of the National Junior Honor Society, and we can help raise money for the crosswalks and can help paint if necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Whittemore for the record. Can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Two things. I have a lot of friends and neighbors who live in that Terry Street area. And right after the meeting, I think, where did I run into Carl? I ran into Carl, I believe, at the Shangri-La. And I took what I had from the plans, and I'll tell you, they are just over the moon with what's happening there. So we're making it better. And it's nice to see that a council can look both forward, going up with Tony's buildings, look at the past and moving the Dixie Moon. So I think you guys and ladies have done a hell of a job. But I want to say a few words on the Dixie Moon. It's interesting because Bonita, I get calls at least twice a week. I want to come to Bonita. Would you give me a tour? I'm turning out to be the official tour guide for some reason. The senior housing developments, they want to come in, American House, and I never refuse. The Brooks is now called to come over and do that. So I like to be in a position where I can brag about what we're doing to preserve and what we're doing going forward. And putting the part of the Dixie Moon down there, we can make it for information, whatever. And I strongly recommend we just take steps at a time. We're not here to solve world hunger. But if we put the Dixie Moon front down there, get a group together like you did when we picked the site, let them go out, investigate, and come back. We don't have to go from A to Z all in one move. But let's save it and let's move it.
Okay. Thank you, Bonnie. Other members of the public that would like to speak? Would you like? Yes. Councilman, thanks for joining us. You have some information to share?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. Well, it was great seeing you.
For the record, former Councilman Robert Wagner, I really have to say that this city has made some progress. You've managed growth, and that's the main thing about growth. If you manage it well, you will thrive and you will prosper. When we first incorporated, it wasn't easy. There were a lot of councilmen, or councilman-to-be, I should say, and our former and first mayor, Paul Pass, we politicked pretty hard to get incorporated, and the vote was very close. And the people kept telling us that opposed Incorporation said, we're scared. We're scared of big business coming in here and ruining this town. The side that won, and we didn't win very handily, it was very close. We had to convince those people that government light was the way to go. Keep on that same road. Do not change the comp plan. I think it would be a mistake. We've come this far. We've had a good road, and I hope that you continue on this path. So my message to the council, don't change the comp plan. Keep up the success. You've done a good job, and keep it up.
Wonderful.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here this evening. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Other members of the public that would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move along. John, and did you have something we wanted to move up here on the agenda with the council's indulgence?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Today, we were sitting down with our Land Use Counsel, David Theriak, and we were discussing the comp plan amendment that was going to be presented to you tonight for adoption, and also began discussing the zoning application that was going to follow this application. During that discussion, it was realized that the zoning application as it's presented today would have a difficult time matching up with the language that's being proposed to you in the comprehensive plan. And as a result, what we would like to do is delay discussion of this public hearing until June, and so that give us time to modify the language with the applicant and then bring it back to you. Right now, we're thinking that your first and second readings in June would be the first and second meetings of June, with the LPA to take place, I believe it's on the 12th of that month. And so we'd be looking at the adoption hearing that second meeting. It's unfortunate, however, we have had a discussion with the applicant, and he has decided that this is the way to go. He did ask that I let you know that there is not a change to the zoning, and this did not have is not a result of them modifying what they were requesting. It was simply a situation where the current request was not going to match up with the proposed language. So if council approves, we would like to work within those dates and move forward that way.
Council?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second. Further discussion?
And that's fine with the applicant?
Well, delays are never really fine with the applicant, but he believes this is the most effective way to go forward.
What was the date that we'll be having this same reading again, first reading?
It's this. It would be your second meeting in June. I'm sorry, I don't have my calendar.
Your first meeting would be June 4th for a first reading, a second reading on June 18th, and LPA on June 12th.
Okay. So basically, we're losing, it's a month.
Yes, sir.
Essentially, yes, sir.
And this is agenda item 9. So if anybody needs to know what agenda item we're talking about, that's the one that's being pulled forward.
And it can't just be pushed back one meeting, it has to be pushed back two?
It has to be pushed back that much due to advertising. It's not because of the complexity of what we're going to be doing. It's just the amount of advertising and the date that needs to be submitted. And even that's going to be very tight for us to make sure we get done.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
No.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba? Aye.
Okay. Thank you, John. We are now going to move on to the consent agenda. Council, what's your pleasure?
Pull C. Oh,
Okay, we're going to pull C. Did I hear something else? Same, C.
move to approve the rest.
Okay, motion to approve the rest.
Second.
Second. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba? Aye. Councilman DeWitt?
Aye.
Okay, item C. Whoever got there
Mike.
first.
Go ahead.
Mike.
Well,
take it away.
I was mainly asking because of the Tuesday, July 17th meeting. Is there any way to do them on Mondays? Mondays work out much better for me. Tuesday's an extremely busy day for me, and it's very hard to miss a whole day of work.
July
That would be the first.
16th, then you're saying?
Yeah.
Same days for zoning, here's
Sorry, what?
Say it again, Audrey.
July 16th is city council zoning, so if we have any council cases for zoning, we could do it immediately after that date, after that time.
Wouldn't we know, when,
I think Popeye's
Oh,
chicken
July,
might be
yeah.
scheduled at that point.
could we do it on the 16th, and can we move the zoning? I mean, the budget's
Yeah, you could do-
budget's a long thing. It requires a lot of time. First meeting.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with July 16th, Mike, if that works. Council, what, everybody else?
She's got to see what.
I'd like to make a comment, and I really think we need to be having some kind of preliminary discussions way before, because if we don't, we're
But now
gonna
doing
be,
the state.
we're short on money, short on options, and we run ourselves into a short on time, so.
And one thing I'll just throw in there with legislative priorities, I mean, we gotta get to them ultra early this year.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I know,
Okay.
I mean, I was just gonna say the same thing. I agree. I think we'll have some preliminary numbers in June of what our taxable value will be based on this. So, what time do we gotta set the do not exceed millage? The first meeting in July?
It has to be reported by August 4th.
So, I mean,
I kind of agree that we should have another meeting earlier, but I just,
Yeah.
maybe we could focus on this one for, I mean, just
I agree.
to have this on the 16th.
16th, yeah.
Yeah. But then she's,
Do you want to look at some other dates earlier than that, too?
Sure.
While we're at it?
Would you be interested in a workshop, like before a council meeting, or that could be
Yeah.
like an hour and a half, or?
What I think would be good would be if we could take like a topic. Maybe one topic would be capital improvements. Other topic may be something that's a big issue in the operating budget. And we don't have long meetings, we just take topics, make them concise, but at least get a consensus of where we're at on it. I think it would pay off.
It's fine by me. Council, what's your pleasure there?
I mean, I think since we got a motion on the floor, I think we approved the 16th,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
come
Well,
back with some other dates, because I
well,
know.
I was-
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say if the 16th doesn't work because of the zoning, maybe the 9th. So a
well,
week
she's
earlier, or-
checking that out, I think.
Yeah.
Audrey, I mean, she. Can we do the,
You could do the 16th,
and
it
it-
was canceled.
oh, it was canceled.
It's
We can do the
canceled.
9th
Okay.
and the 16th. I mean, if we wanted to.
You want to do the 9th and do like a workshop on the 9th? Ann, would that,
Sure, that'd be fine.
okay? Everybody should be back from the 4th of July then, or if not, I guess you'll have to come back a day or two early. Why don't we do workshops on the 9th or 6th and 16th, Council? Is that good? Okay.
16th, you do your tentative.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever, sure. I mean, yes, Audrey, whatever it needs to be called, but yes.
Okay.
Okay. So the 9th, we'll talk numbers, Ann?
Right.
That's good for you, and we'll talk some more numbers on the 16th?
Right.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
the full numbers will be back on the July 1st, correct? The hard numbers.
For the property taxes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
And what, 9 a.m.? I know Fred likes earlier, but 9 a.m.'s good for everybody?
Yeah, 9 a.m. is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dynamite, 9 a.m. on the 9th and the 16th. Okay, there's been a, do we have to make another motion? Are we good with the same motion? Well, we had a motion on the 16th. Do we need a separate motion on the 9th?
I think staff has direction.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think, yeah. Now,
okay.
on
All
other-
right, further discussion? Roll call,
Oh,
please.
what-
9th and the 16th at 9?
Are we going to discuss other dates?
Well, and you wanted to bring it up too, so.
Okay.
My issue is the 17th, so.
Yeah, so I
Oh,
ha-
I'm sorry, Peter. Yes, for
Yeah.
item C. I'm
I
sorry.
actually have
Yes.
an issue on the 1st and the 12th. Having said that, this is September 12th. Having said that, I can call in the 1st. I don't think if we're going to have two meetings before, I don't know how much a third meeting would probably be lighter, and I guess I could do that on the phone. But the 12th of September, I'm out.
Realistically, I
Yeah.
mean, just talking out loud, I mean,
Right.
the 12th should nothing more than
Be
a
a
formality.
non-event kind of.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
I
let
would
it-
think.
All right, well, I won't be there, so, okay.
Well, and actually on August 1st on that one, if
Yeah.
you can be at, I mean, we'll know then by the 12th, hey, or our second meeting in August. If we need to change the tentative millage date on the 12th, we can change that. Change
Okay.
it at that time.
All right.
I know there's some conflicts that we can't be with the school board and some other issues
Okay.
in the county, but.
Right.
Well, let's just rely on that then.
Okay.
That'll be light, and let's hope it's right.
Normally, I'm the difficult one around these, Ann, but you and I hashed that out earlier, didn't we?
Oh, you got in there early.
I got in early, yeah, right.
I was wondering what's happening.
Can I ask you if you would prefer to just push it back to the Thursday? The
I'm-
13th, or you're out the whole week, or?
Yeah, I'm actually
Okay.
out, yeah. Let me see here. Yeah. So what are we doing, 9th? Let's let it go, because we'll have 2 full meetings under our belt before the 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ann, I guess, because, sometimes we've had to juggle these September dates a little bit. What is kind of the last day, or is
The end of the month.
That's the 20.
we have till the end of the month?
Right.
Not that
Right.
we want to
But
do
we
that,
have
but, so that's what I'm saying, Pete. If you want, we can look at some other dates, because we do have until the end of the month if we
You gotta
need.
have 2
Well,
meetings
we need
by.
to
Right,
have
right,
two.
right. No, I understand.
And
but-
there's time constraints as to how you, is listed down below.
Well, let me suggest if we can do it on the 5th instead of the 12th of September, that would be better. But frankly, once again, the meat of the discussion is always really at the beginning. So I'm not worked up about it. And then there's the, wait till September. Well, let me ask,
Well,
can we,
that's a good question. Is there a reason why we didn't do it after our regular meeting on the 5th?
Well, the 5th is a night meeting, so.
I just thought it had to be after 5:01.
It-
yeah, well,
right.
it's at 5:05.
And-
That's
and
what I
that-
mean. So that
So-
would work, thank you.
And that could be done then.
That'd actually be better, right?
It-
Right,
With
do
a-
it at 5:05 and.
Well, there isn't. The county is the day before.
Oh, that's great, great. So, in other words, we're meeting on the 5th anyhow at 5:30, so come at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So it'd be 5:05.
Right.
And then, so I need to then change the final hearing.
Why? Why is that?
there's only so many days
Because
between
you'd have to advertise, and then you have to hold your meeting within a certain time period. We have to advertise within 15 days of the first hearing, and then hold the second hearing within 2 to 5 days of advertising. So
So
That doesn't get you to the 26, 15 plus 5 is 20.
that would be cutting it
How
short.
about, what about the 19th then,
And that,
It's a religious holiday.
religious holiday?
with the 20th,
20th?
20th?
September 20th?
For the final one?
Yeah, she
Correct.
seems to need it. You need it 20 days from the 5th, is that the idea?
We
You
need
said-
15
No,
days.
fif-
I thought you
15
said
days
15
from,
plus 5. Didn't you say that?
Well, the 5th.
Right.
So 5.
right. 15 plus.
I
the-
raise you.
It's within 15 days of the first you need to advertise, and then the advertisement needs to occur between 2 and 5 days before the final hearing.
Okay. Well,
The 20th would work.
the 18th or the 20th?
The 18th is the county, so, hearing, so we would not be able to do that.
17th?
We could do the 17th.
Of September?
do 17th, and do 20th, we could do 25th, and that cuts it. I mean,
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm good any of those days, so.
17th?
Is that good for you on the 17th, Fred?
I don't care.
Okay.
What time?
5:05,
5:05.
What are we saying the last one is?
September 17th.
September 17th.
I don't think I can make that.
All right, so what were the other 2
But
days?
it doesn't matter, because normally that, we just go for 10 minutes and
Right.
we just ratify. So I can just
Yeah.
call in on that, so I don't care. I don't think it matters whether we will or can't be there, as long as we have a quorum.
Okay,
Okay.
We're talking about the 17th now?
yeah. The
Yes.
5th and the 17th.
And the 5th will be at 5. That should not be a heavy meeting?
We just did, last year we ran a little long, but
I'm just asking because the
Because we-
5th is my son's birthday, and, I'm just checking.
Well, we have a city
there's a
council meeting
there's a
right
council
after.
meeting.
Yeah. Well, all right, Petey, I love you. Okay, they are okay. Okay, fair enough.
Happy birthday to
Yeah,
start.
we'll wish him a happy birthday. Yeah. Okay.
We got from 5:05 to 5:30. Let's have the birthday party here real quick.
We'll have the birthday party here. Okay, very good. Okay.
City council.
Yeah.
All right, so I make a motion to move that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Let's just make sure. We're going to go back to July 9th, right, Ann?
That's correct.
We're going to have a workshop, and that's going to be at 9. Fred, the day will be half over, but we're going to do it at 9 a.m. Okay, and then we are going to do the 16th at 9 a.m.
Correct.
And then we're going to do September 5th at 5:05, and we're going to do September 17th at 5:05. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, wonderful. And Peter made a motion, Mike seconded that. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ann, very much.
And I will send an updated
Yeah, that's great.
calendar. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to proclamations and presentations. The first one here
Mayor,
is, yeah.
I just want to know, is it okay if I excuse Mr. Theriak at this time? I wanted to make sure you didn't have any additional questions that you might want him during the land use ordinance.
Council?
No.
Great.
Okay.
Wonderful. Great, yeah, great to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, take care. Thank you for everything.
I apologize, thank you.
Okay, the first item here is South Florida Water Management District. Phil Flood's going to give us an update, but he's not here yet unless I've missed him. He's coming over from the East Coast, so we're going to move that back to when he gets here and when it fits in nicely. So we're going to move on to item B, a presentation of the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2017 by Jeff Brown, CPA partner with the audit firm of Ashley Brown and Company, CPAs, and this is green sheet 18050114. Hello.
Hello. It's my privilege to introduce Jeff Brown. He is partner with Ashley Brown and Company, and they are our external auditors.
From Punta Gorda, if I remember correct.
Yes, sir.
All right, unless you moved. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
How you doing?
Doing great. Good to be here. I'm not going to take a tremendous amount of your time. Obviously, you all are well informed of what's going on with the finances of the city. And I think this document's 110 or so pages long, but please feel free to ask me any questions that you have. I know you've had this already, and then also going forward, we work for you. So if there's things that you've got during the year that are coming along, and we think we have a pretty good relationship, we try to work through issues and problems that could potentially come up during the year. So we are kind of your year-round auditors. So please feel free to reach out to us if we can help. There's only a couple things in here I'll bring to your attention. The first thing is on pages, it starts on page 2 through 4 is our independent auditors report. And this is what the old term was unqualified, unmodified, or what they would call a clean opinion. And it basically means that the financial statements as they were prepared by your staff were presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that's a good highest level of assurance that you've received from an auditor. We ask for, as you know, lots and lots of source documents. We start with the financial statements and kind of work our way down through bank statements, invoices, canceled checks, those sorts of things, and everything tied out. All of the schedules that were prepared by your staff and presented to us were in an organized and auditable fashion, so we appreciate their efforts. On page 5 starts your management's discussion and analysis, and if you haven't, I encourage you to at least read through this. It's a nice narrative format. It kind of presents the financial highlights of the city for the year, and there's some charts and tables in there, and it's relatively a good overview of the financial highlights for the year. A couple, one or two numbery things. Back on page 50 is one of the things that I just wanted to bring to your attention is the budget to actual for the general fund. About 2/3 of the way down the page there, all the way on the right presents the variance. But the total budgeted expenditures were just over 22 million. There's a big number in there for appropriated reserves, but if you take that out, the point of me bringing this up is that you were about $245,000 under budget. So that's one of the things as auditors, obviously, we look at is to make sure you didn't overspend the legal authority of the city. Back on page 89 is another one of our reports, and this is what we call our report on your internal control and compliance. There's 2 paragraphs in here that are relatively important. One of them under internal control over financial reporting, that second to last sentence in that paragraph states that we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we considered to be material weaknesses. And then again, the last sentence in that next paragraph, in compliance and other matters, the results of our tests disclose no instances of noncompliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. Next report in here of ours is our management letter to you, to Mayor and Council. There's numerous references in here to rules of the Auditor General, Florida statutes, but they're all positive statements. The city complied with everything that you were required to comply with from a financial standpoint during the year. And then the last of our reports is on page 96, and that's regarding compliance with investment policies. And again, the same positive statement, the city is in compliance with everything that you're required to be. So with that, we're already in the process of working with Ann to get everything submitted off to the state agencies as required, and you should be good to go for fiscal year 2017.
Okay, thank you very much. Council,
sir.
what questions or thoughts? Sounds good? Okay.
It was. No. Good to
Thank
hear.
you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, we're going to move on to item C now. This is an errata sheet from Councilman Forbes. Provide direction to staff on the options to relocate all or a portion of the Dixie Moon Cafe to a city-owned property adjacent to the Lyles Hotel. Green sheet 1805-0118. John Dolmer.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor. I know this is Councilman Forbes' item, but just to provide a little bit of history for you and get the discussion going. As you all know, as part of the Mosaic or Dean Street mixed-use plan development approval, $147,000 was pledged to the city in an effort to move the Dixie Moon. And while that project has previously stalled, they have evidently solved all of their issues and are ready to go forward in the next couple of months. They still do not have their development order approved, but they are actively pursuing that and working in that direction. Since that time, since we originally gave a general price for the movement of this building, we've become much more specific. We've had the city's architect, Sam Vincent, propose several sites to you. You've chosen a site. He's presented several options in terms of how the entire site can be developed. You have given a general approval to that, which is a plaza concept in front of the building between the laundromat and the Lyles Hotel on the west side of Old 41. And as we have gotten into more detail about the plan, there have been several things that have come up that have either been concerns or items that could potentially cost more than we anticipated. One of those is the fact that that property is in a flood zone. Another is the condition of the building and potential uses and how the building would be built out to handle that. And another, obviously, is accessibility. So as a result or in response to that, several alternatives were presented, and those alternatives are two versions of essentially the same thing. One is to simply move the facade. The other is to move the facade plus a little bit of the side walls and then put a new back wall once the building is relocated. That would allow you at some point in the future to build a new building on the back if you so chose. But in the meantime, the intent of that was to reduce the cost. Now, I know that there have been concerns, and Mr. Vincent is here and he plans to speak to let you know about how this really doesn't meet his intent of architecture, and he is concerned with creating essentially a Hollywood movie set, which we're trying to avoid with other architectural standards that we employ throughout the city. However, this is a historic building that comes with all of the benefits and issues that any historic building will present. And as a result, there are issues that you as a council, and now will be the owner of this building, need to decide. I think that from planning and zoning's perspective and community development, we obviously would like to see the whole building moved. However, we also understand that there's a financial aspect to this, so we tend to be a little more flexible in terms of opinions, and we'll work with whatever you as a council decide, and just make the best of whatever we have been dealt. So without any more delay, I know Mr. Vincent wants to speak, and he has some handouts that I will help him distribute, but he has a couple of comments for you.
Well, can I make a comment before?
Yes, sir.
The reason that this alternative approach came up was that I think you want to have at least a three-dimensional. One thing that I would say is that it would not substantially change the cost if you wanted to take the whole ends, instead of 3.5 feet of side walls, take it all the way, take the roof with it. But as soon as you buy into making that building where people are going to go in it, the dollar meter is going to fly off the dial, and we are not flush with money. If we just move the shell, don't touch the inside other than fix the structure, you're not into historical interior renovation. You're not into ADA compliance. You're out of a whole, you don't have to put air conditioning in it. All you have to do is put some humidifiers in it. You can put a couple lights inside so that at night they come on with a timer so that the glass windows would light up. Then, if and when council down the road has the money, if you want to then launch off into adding public restrooms, making it ADA compliant, making the interior historically relevant, you can spend that money. But if you just do this first step, it's going to save a whole lot of money. And I can tell you, it's going to be probably $400,000 or $500,000 minimum. Now, I don't care what other estimates show. Air conditioning costs so much, ADA costs so much, and you're going to have to make that ADA compliant. And that's going to even alter the looks quite a bit. So my advice is, let's save the building, but let's save the shell, seal it up, dehumidify it, do the interior repair, don't put any interior finishes in. The outside will look fine. We can have plaques, photos of the way it used to look. We can still make the park and all that. We just won't do that other expensive part now.
Yeah.
For no other reason, we don't have the money.
Okay. Council, anything before Sam starts? Sam?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor,
One
Council.
thing of John, I had a brief chat with John a week or two ago. You said it was like falling apart.
There is, the way that building was constructed, it makes it interesting to move because the walls are not necessarily attached to the foundation. It's an older type of construction. The wood that's in there, I think that there was termite damage on a portion that was added onto at a later date.
Right.
That not be part of the move, but still has deteriorated a portion of the
Right.
building. And while I think the pine is in good condition, I think the walls in general have suffered a little lack of maintenance.
But the front is secure?
From what I've been told from those that understand this sort of thing,
Right, right.
it is.
Okay, thank you.
Fred Forbes said everything I think that I was going to say.
Oh, good. Couldn't have said it better yourself, huh?
Right. What I have here for you is a floor plan. Shows the size of the Dixie Moon. It's roughly 34 feet by 16 feet deep. It's not a very big building. It's only about 675 square feet. Very, very small. We've got an electrical price for this, but we're talking about in moving it. I agree with moving the whole shell, but providing a slab with a foundation, small foundation, and providing some things for the inside. You have to provide a foundation. It doesn't have one now. It's wood, but it's in good shape. We walked through the building, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, and it is in very good shape. It's very stout. We had Pete Hyde just walked through there with us, and he agreed it was in real good shape structurally. It needs some work on the inside, but I think, as Councilman Forbes says, that depending on what you want to do in the budget that you have, you wouldn't have to do anything now. You could put a humidifier, and that would stay put for a while. I don't agree with the $400,000, $500,000 price, not with 675 square feet. That would, right now, I'm thinking that you've got about $90 a square foot to spend on it. And you're not putting full electrical, you're not putting mechanical, air conditioning. All you're doing is structural slab, foundation, and repairing the stucco after the move, and repairing some of the inside after the move. So I don't see that kind of money in this project. But as you look at the sheets here, the renderings that I gave you, you can see on the last sheet here, the aerial view, that there's not a very big building to move. I would not recommend cutting off 2 feet of each end and leaving a Hollywood set out there. There's no reason for that. I don't, as an architect, I don't like moving historical structure and leaving part of it behind. The whole thing is a historical structure, not just the facade. So I think that we want to move the whole thing, because when you do that, you can now complete this park, at least move in that direction, and have a whole building that can be sitting there, not much money spent on it, and prepare this park. And I think that would be a great introduction at that part of the Old 41 Road for the public. Bonnie mentioned tours. This is a great place to start a tour. And I would rather do it with a whole building than a piece of a building. So really, it's your decision, what you want to move and how you want to move it, but it can be moved, and I think it's structurally sound.
Okay. Why don't we start on this end, Amy?
Well, this is different information than we had the last time, because we were made to understand that it was not structurally sound and you couldn't move it. So is that incorrect?
That's incorrect. We walked through it recently, and
So
it
you
is
could move the
structurally
whole
sound.
thing? And then my second question, and we were also told that if you did interior work or whatever, that it would be, because it's in a floodplain, you'd have to elevate it.
No, I have some panels that can be used on that. It's floodpanel.com. If you go to that website, you can look at these panels. They stack up in front of the door and supported by the structure. You can either put a lean-to on those panels, or you can use a log system to close up the doors. You only have 2 doors now. If you want to add one to the rear, that would be 3 doors that are only 3 feet wide.
And just as a point to that, there was a question before, because there were certain changes with FEMA's regulations, and if you were going to be able to flood-proof a historic building. And so that was a topic of discussion for a while, to make sure that that would still be permitted and you did not have to build to the proper elevation. So now that we can relatively do this, the flood panel, or the flood proofing, does become an option.
Okay, so just repeat again what you're suggesting, because it's totally different. You move the whole building, and what
Yes.
do you do to it? You just leave it as a shell? And you don't use
Depending on the move and what happens to the structure itself, the walls, you may have to do some repair work, but it looks like structurally it's sound. When it moves as a unit, and that's why I don't recommend you move a piece of it. The whole thing will stay as a diaphragm. It'll stay together, and you can move it at one time. If you start moving pieces of it, it's going to fall apart on
yeah,
you.
but this is totally different. And then would we have to eventually put restrooms in there? Is that
Depending on the use, and that is yet to be decided, but the way that this would work, I imagine, is that you would hire a vendor who would go in and would have some requirements, and that would be negotiated with whoever leases the building. They may provide the restrooms, they may not need restrooms. I wouldn't move in that direction until you know who the user is.
Okay, thank you.
Let me mention again the website, the floodplain.com. There you'll find the elevation certificate that's needed by FEMA and the flood certificate that will be needed by FEMA. So FEMA approves these panels, and they've been used before.
Okay. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Greg?
I was just trying to look up one of the old things, because at one of, like Amy said, we've got different information that the actual move was going to cost us more money.
Right.
It was going to.
The last price I got from the moving company, it was $83,000. I asked twice about that, and they said it was $83,000.
Okay, first, Mr. Mayor, if I might, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes, Carl, please. No, absolutely.
So this is the first time I've heard this, so I'm taken aback a little bit. We wanted to move the entire building, okay? And Matt's been in the building along with the mover, and there is significant termite damage to the building. In fact, Matt likened it to if you were to try to move the building without shoring up the walls, that the building might actually act like this during the move. And so there was a great concern about that. I asked multiple times of the building department whether or not we needed to go 5 feet in the air in this thing. And yes, it's always been an option to try to flood-proof it, but how effective will that be? And so the answer then became, or the option became, let's take a look at basically saving what you see on the mural back there, which is the front facade itself and maybe 3 feet to 4 feet back on the sides and on the roof. So the building is not meant to be habitable. It's just meant to be a display, if you will, but still could be attraction downtown. You could still do the kind of work out front so that you've got a gathering place for it. But as Councilmember Forbes indicated, you know, there's going to be a significant difference in the budget between trying to move the entire building. And believe me, there's no guarantee it will survive, according to the movers, without being shored up. So all that work's got to be done, where a significant less amount actually has to be done if you were to move the facade and either move 3 feet of the walls and the roof, or if you were simply to save the facade and build 3 feet on each side and on the roof up against some type of wall, which could be a display wall of some type as well. And again, you still have the gathering place, the plaza, if you will, out in front of the building. That relieves the city, in my understanding, that relieves the city of having to do elevation of any kind or floodproofing, because the building's not going to be habitable. Now, Councilmember Forbes, and of course he can speak more eloquently to it than I can, is that by allowing that 3 feet out away from the display wall, if you will, allows somebody to go in and check every once in a while to see how the thing is coming and what maintenance needs are required inside, without having to worry about air conditioning the entire thing and what use you're going to have. So I understand that this is a major difference, one option versus another. But one of the reasons we're asking you to seriously consider the option of moving a portion of the building, especially the facade, is for costs reasons, and part of that being you don't have to elevate the building.
Well, Sam, John, why are we, I mean, look, why are we, what's going on? Yeah, right, what's going on? Why are we getting all this different information? What's the real information?
I have no idea.
Now that we've blown through the fake news, the fake
What's
information,
going on
what's the
is
real information?
You have an older building that has not received repair for several years, not since it was operated as a hot caboose. And as a result, there's been some neglect there, and that building is obviously deteriorated as a portion of it. What I think is and unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, I can't really speak with any authority of having been in the building when we had access. I was not in the office, and I have not been inside since it closed as a restaurant. So everything that I'm telling you from that I've been told. So I cannot give you firsthand experience, unfortunately. I know the movers had serious concerns about moving it, and they were talking about bracing it. They had talked about termite damage, and I believe from what I have heard from others is the termite damage is in a portion of the building that was part of an addition. It was not part of the original construction. I cannot confirm that independently. However, it appears that the older pine that was used on the interior is still in good shape. The newer portion of the building did not use that old Dade County pine and has had some damage to it. As, like I said, this is secondhand knowledge that I'm providing to you. The building, because it was constructed in a format that did not have a strong foundation, or was really not even directly attached to the foundation, does present some obstacles with a relocation because you don't have that stability. It's the same reason that car makers have difficulties with convertibles. If you don't have that solid platform to distribute mass, the rigidity just isn't there. And so when the mover's talking about having to shore up certain portions of the building, our public works director is concerned with a bowing effect. Those are valid concerns. I'm not sure that they can't be overcome, and you've heard your city architect tell you that he believes they can, but there are things that need to be considered when it's relocated. When it's on the new site, the reason why we had always talked about and why there was a concern about being in a flood zone was we were looking at new regulations from FEMA and needed to make sure that they would allow us to locate a historic structure below flood and then use the flood-proofing panels. You recently have approved a building over in Pueblo Bonita where a portion of it was going to be using the flood-proofing. So it's not an unheard of process. And in fact, we're going to be looking to do more of that downtown to keep buildings at grade and still provide that flood-proofing. So the option or the design of a flood-proof building versus the elevated building is one that we would almost prefer in that area. We just needed to make sure that we could do it. And we didn't want to move the building and have the expense spent only to find out later that we had to lift the building up. Now we have to provide different accessibility ramps, and on a tight site like that, would have been very difficult to meet the maximum grade within the property we had. So it almost dominoed into a series of other issues. Based on what we know now, a lot of those issues have disappeared. However, do know that you've got a moving company that has some concerns with relocating a building, and you have other opinions saying the building is structurally sound. So obviously there's a concern there. It doesn't mean it can't be overcome, but whenever you have a difference of opinion, you have to take that in consideration. I believe that if you can move the entire building, that's always the better way to go. However, if we decide that the building isn't going to be able to be moved, or the risk of moving the building is too high, better to have the facade than nothing. But I would agree with Mr. Vincent. If it's possible to get the whole building there, get the whole building. We can always determine what you want to do with it after it's there, but the building will be preserved and it will still be intact. Future use, future tenants, vendors, that's a decision for another day. But we'll have the building to have the discussion another day if we do it. If you move the facade, you could always build a new building on the back. It would obviously meet current standards. It would be a stronger building, but it wouldn't be a historic building.
Right.
So,
Fred?
Yeah, Sam, one question. I have a proposal that might shorten this up a bit. Isn't the front portion, isn't that my understanding is that's a wood floor joist system?
Yes.
Okay, so that would mean that the finished floor of that building is going to be up above finished grade.
Yes.
So that means automatically, if you're going to let the public in, you're going to have an ADA ramp or something. My point, all I'm saying is, whether we move 3 feet or the whole original building, I think moving the whole building would be good, and it probably can be done. But what we don't want to do is commit that we're going to make this building habitable. Because as soon as you do that, that's when the dollar thing does that. We can move it, we can have it light up at night, then down the road, and that could be next year or 2 years, then we can address trying to make it habitable. We can still have the park, it'll look great, but right away it's not ADA accessible because you got to step up to get on that finished floor. Because there's no way a floor joist isn't way above the finished grade.
Ms. Force.
And I think my other proposal is, we've got more time than we thought, so let Sam and I go in there together, look at it, and we'll be back at the next meeting with a report. And I guarantee you we'll agree.
Well, no offense, but you and Sam ain't moving it. Flint and Doyle needs to go there and give us a true
We've got to
evaluation.
have them there too.
Well, they're the ones that's going to move it. No matter if you two say it should only cost $50,000, at the end of the day, they're the ones putting it on their truck and taking the responsibility.
That's right.
Well, the information that I have and I'm working with now, I was told when we first got into this that the cost was $83,000, and I said, "Are you sure it can be moved?" They said yes. Both of them said yes.
Well,
so now I don't know what's happening in the interim here, but someone's changing their opinions about things.
Well, and that's correct me if I'm wrong, they went in there, looked at some damage, said in order to do it and do it right, it's going to be to the tune of $147,000.
Well,
But that's not just, excuse me, Sam, that's, the move itself is still probably around $85,000, okay?
Right.
But it's all the other things in terms of shoring things up, leasing girders for them to sit this building down at the second site, all of the extras that get added on, you're at 147, and that does not include some of the cost, and that was very clearly put out in the proposal that you saw at the last meeting.
Right.
So, and maybe Sam needs to be read in on that. I'm not sure how much he knows about that, but anyway, listen, I think if we've got additional time, which, John, would you agree we have some additional time?
I think
Not
we
a
do.
lot, but
no,
some.
not a lot, but we do have a little bit.
I would agree that we need to come back. We need to get on the same, we need to get on the
Well,
same
yeah.
page.
Just
And
get everybody down there on location that needs to be
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah,
Have
Mayor, I
everybody there.
apologize
No,
for this.
no,
We
no,
don't,
no,
I don't
it's
like
all
when
right.
this happens, but obviously, we've got to get on the same page and come back to you with the full story, the right story.
Yeah,
And
and
the
it's-
next meeting would be, and if council member
Sounds
wants to
good.
be involved, that's a
May-
wonderful.
May I
Perfect.
ask also, Sam, would you clarify this ADA issue about if you move the whole building?
Right. What, there are two ways to handle the ADA problem. You can either build ramps, or you can bring the grade up to where you want it to be.
Right. So if it's only a foot, you could just do that.
It's
right?
8 inches right now.
Right.
And right now, grade is brought up to that elevation. So you either bring the grade up or you do an expensive ramp. So that's what I don't want you to get confused about, is that there are ways to solve these problems, and I've been doing them for 40 years, that you don't have to spend a lot of money on ramps.
And then also when you come back to us, I'd like to, I mean, I'm not sure you really save that much money by doing the facade versus the other one. I'd like to know what the alternatives are and get a better clearing picture from the movers, whether they, are they going to guarantee it or what are they going to do about it? It won't be guaranteed, all right. Okay. All right,
That's true.
so
Well, I think
once they get started, if it starts to fall apart, they're just going to abandon it, so they should be, right?
I think if it starts to fall apart, it's going to fall apart quick.
Right. And then you
Just
have
make
to
sure it
do-
don't happen in front of us.
I think Councilman Forbes has a good recommendation. Perhaps he and I could go over there and meet with the movers, and let's get to the bottom of these misconceptions.
Let's get everybody on campus, so to speak, and
Yes.
report back for the next meeting.
Yes.
We apologize.
And-
No
and-
worries. And Greg, you had a thought, and maybe
Yeah, I
Peter
just had
too.
a quick comment. I mean, I know Councilman Forbes means well. We're putting the cart way before the horse. We don't know what we're going to do. Someone could come to us in 6 months from now and want to lease it. So to start throwing that we need numbers and the clock starting, we don't even know what we're going to do with it yet. Let's get it there and figure that out at a later time.
I agree with that. And let me say that the decision you're making here is for the sake of the building, it's for the sake of the city. Meaning, if I cut a portion of it off, I'm losing the building. I'm losing the history that the building has. Don't take a historic structure and chop it up to meet some standard that you're looking for here. It's not a Hollywood set. It's a real building. In 1915, when it was built by real people, and it was a real building. It had a use for a long time. You have to respect that.
What year was it built?
1915.
Just make sure we keep the whistle stop in it
Yeah,
too, 'cause
Laura,
that's
I'm
what it was
sorry.
the longest.
Laura's
Yes.
been sitting
It was.
patiently. I'm sorry,
Yes.
Laura.
All right.
Yes.
Didn't the head of the Historic Society say that he was in favor of just moving the facade, making sure that was secure, and then
That was
actually
the recommendation.
rebuilding? And you can do a faux. I mean, everybody goes to the White House. It's not the original, right? So we have the front, and then we could make it really sturdy and even do a better, I mean, I would never remove the roof in that thing, personally. But to put a better roof on, and then we could do bathrooms.
When you do those kinds of things, if you change too much of the building, you're going to have to bring it up to code. When you bring that building up to code, you're going to start running into a lot of issues that there's going to be skeletons in the closet there. So I would want to be careful of that when
Of just the facade?
no, if you take the facade and you add on later, when I add the new portion on, I've got to bring all of it up to code.
Council, anything else?
I just wanted to say it's an awful nice rendering there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's a nice idea, and I think it would do well in the city at that particular location of the Lyles at the foot of the bridge, and a great orientation point for the city. So,
Great. I want this, so make it work.
What's that? Whoa. No, you better not. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
okay.
Get everybody together, same time.
Okay,
All right?
thank you very much.
All right. Dynamite. Thank you, Sam. All right, where are we here? Mayor and council member items. Discussion and direction on the replacement of the city manager, Councilman DeWitt.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this up. I know there was a couple emails floating around. Last month or last meeting, I said I was going to do a green sheet, and I've I thought about it more and more about not doing a green sheet. I want to have the discussion. I think that we need to appoint an acting city manager. I mean, we got one more meeting with the illustrious Carl Schwing before he leaves us and retires. I think that we should, at this meeting, I mean, I don't want to leave it down to the next meeting. I think we should have the discussion. My personal recommendation would be, if there's, Arlene has come up through the ranks. She started in, I believe, in Laura's job, then kind of morphed off onto something else, and then came back and become this. In my personal opinion, if she's not, I hate to use the word heir apparent, but if she's not the one that Carl sees or seen as a successor, then why was she even putting that? Just to throw someone in there to have an assistant city manager? We've all seen many times that if Carl and Arlene are out, then it goes either to Nicole or to Ann or to whomever. So that's within it. But I just think we should do it now. So at least we've named somebody. We can go out at a later date and figure out if we want to hire someone full-time or offer it to Arlene. But I think we need to start a transition sooner than later. So I know Carl brings her up to speed on everything, but there may be something that maybe he holds close to the vest, or he needs to teach her or tell her about. So I think it would be a good opportunity to do it tonight if the council desires that. It's not going to tie our hands. We're not offering her a contract. We're not doing this. We're just naming an acting or an interim city manager at this time.
I'd like to say, sorry, Amy?
No, I say interim city manager.
Yeah.
I'm in favor. I didn't mean to jump in.
No, go ahead.
I'm very much in favor of having Arlene assume that position. I do think we need some continuity here, I found Arlene is a very good executor of direction, and I think that's what the council is looking for. And unfortunately, I had to cancel a meeting with her and Carl because I've been under the weather, as you all know. But she's going to be working with me to do the objectives for the council. So, she's already doing things that I think a manager would do. So I'm very much in favor of it. Thank you for bringing it forward, Greg.
Laura?
I agree completely. Arlene is wonderful, and she's perfect fit. The history she knows, and Carl seems to trust her a lot. And so I would support it fully.
Peter?
Yeah, as do I, 1,000%. Arlene has had a distinguished career here. She's touched a lot of, basically every part of the city government, so she's got that under her belt. And in my view, we're looking at a very accomplished professional who more than deserves this.
Okay. Greg? Greg. Mike? Greg?
No, I'm in
Already
100%
said it.
agreement. I think Arlene's doing a good job, and I think she'll do a great job as the interim city manager. And also, I feel that we do need one because so many of our regulations and stuff reference it's decided by the city manager. So
Right.
if that person's not there, you need a captain
Right.
at the helm. So,
Correct.
and I would like that to be Arlene.
Fred?
Well, basically, I think if you read the charter, we would have to name an acting city manager. And I think the one thing I do think, and that is that we should at least investigate the market as well. But she'd be competing with everybody else. Now, I could be persuaded that we don't want to do that, but I think the public kind of expects us to investigate and all that. And then she can compete, and if there's somebody else in the city that wants to throw their hat in the ring, they can do it. But that's what I think.
I'd prefer to hold off on that decision.
Yeah. I was going to say, not to jump in, Peter, but I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, I think that can be done down the road. We're not, that can be 6 months. We got a lot of things coming up here in the next 6 months between the budget, hurricane season, and that's something else I neglected to say. I don't think we're going to see anybody on the outside being as dedicated as Arlene. Remember, Mayor Simmons, you were there. She was right there at ground zero the whole time. She sent her kids away with her husband and stayed here for the city.
Yep.
And
that really sounds like a movie.
Well, I'm just saying, she has the dedication, like you said, and in my personal opinion, I think that we need that continuity out there, as you've said before. When someone asks, hey, what did we do 10 years ago? Arlene can answer that question, whether it was in Laura's position or in a different position. Somebody can answer that question right now, especially since, let's be honest, with the the exit of Carl and of Audrey, that historical is going
institutional
away.
knowledge,
The historical knowledge of the city is going away slowly but surely. So if we can retain that, and again, if we're not happy or we hear the outcrying of the public that the city is going away that we don't want, because let's be honest, the 7 of us up here, not dictate, but we guide them a little bit to what we want. So if we go and say to Arlene as the acting city manager, saying, we're not agreeing with the way the direction you're going, either she's going to go that way or we'll go somewhere else. I mean, I hate to say it that way.
No. I share the thoughts on Arlene 100%. No two ways about that. But I think what we need to be careful of here, and I'm not saying perception, but perception is reality. If we're not going to have an open dialogue where citizens can weigh in on this, certainly the decision's up to us, but we don't want to be appearing to closing a process that's very much a public process. It's publicly tax dollars pay for this position and all of our positions. And if we're going to fast track this or give an appearance of a fast track, I would just be careful. I'm not saying against an acting city manager, but the people that pay all of our salaries and pay this salary haven't had a chance to weigh in on this process yet. So I just want to be very careful with what we do, because this is a very important decision, and we have not heard from the public yet on this. So wherever that leaves us, that's how I feel.
I think the door is still open, because like I said, we're not going to give her, I don't think we're giving her a contract. She's the acting city manager until we decide as a collegial body what we're going to do.
And the public has had a chance, has been noticed on this, and has a chance to weigh in.
Could we have, what does the charter say exactly?
Thank you.
Sorry.
So stop saying acting city manager. If we could use the term interim city manager. Acting city manager is a totally different process, and it's only used during the city manager's temporary absence. In this case, we don't have a temporary absence of city manager. We'll have a full absence. So interim is the correct term. And if you were using the acting, you would only appoint, and if you revoked it, council could have revoked it, it would only be to appoint another officer of the city. So you want to go out farther than the city, so you don't want to use acting city manager, you want to use the term interim. But
And then also, Audrey, I think the last time we were talking about the contract for the manager, could you read
Yes.
that language again?
Sure, so that
It's not
section-
even a contract, it's not even it's an indefinite contract, isn't it?
Correct.
So-
Section 33, when
Yeah.
you're doing appointment of the city manager, at this point, you're not appointing a city manager, you're doing an interim city
Right.
manager. The city council, by a majority vote of its total membership, shall appoint a city manager for an indefinite term and fix the manager's compensation and approve the reimbursement of city-related expenses.
So
that would be the contract part, once you do the fixing of the manager's compensation.
So we could establish an interim city manager with an indefinite term, right?
That's
Yes,
correct.
right.
And then you would figure out that term as you figure out what to do.
Correct.
From interim to
And we
regular
could say,
city manager.
after 6 months or some period, we could say, let's see if we can open it up to the public or whatever we want to do, or we could say, we could have a process by which we could evaluate and say, let's research what other opportunity there might be to get an outsider in there.
Absolutely.
Right.
And just
Well,
to
we
give
don't even have to make it formal, because we could always do that, right?
Yes. So the city's history, when the city first started, it had an interim city manager. It went out to the process, it interviewed, and it decided that it rejected all the interviewees, and then it decided it wanted to go with the interim city manager. So that has happened in the past. My recommendation to you, council, is to name an interim city manager, or name Arlene Hunter as interim city manager, and do a baby step. Have one of you meet with her to discuss any contractual things, and then that can be brought back to council at another date. And then the interim period, you could use it for as long as you wish, whether it's a trial basis, whether you want to leave it longer to go out for the process, and however you want to do it. That's a council call. 6 months, a year?
The only other thing I'm worried about is if we're going to elevate her to this position is compensation. Because I've been an assistant manager before where the manager left, and all of a sudden you're doing all the duties but still getting assistant manager pay, and it's not very fun. You feel like you're getting taken advantage of. So I would just want to make sure that, you know, if we're going to have her do all the duties, that she's compensated for doing all the duties, and we're not taking advantage of her.
I think that goes back
you
to
know,
what
stringing it on
Audrey
as
said
an
we should
interim.
get somebody to go talk to her and figure it out.
Yeah.
Then bring it back.
Guess who?
And that's what we traditionally have done, is had the mayor or council member O'Flynn would go, Deputy Mayor O'Flynn would go and talk to the employee, find out, also meet with Meg Weiss and get the deal points, and then I'd hammer it all out after we got everything set up.
Okay. And I just want to and I think this is a great conversation, and Greg, thanks for bringing this up. But I just want to remind, we're also government light. We keep hearing government light, so let's not forget government light in this process. It's not just a term to throw around. We're either serious about it or we're not.
Yeah, so I'd make a motion that we go forward with Arlene. If you wanted, Peter, we could have Greg do a green sheet for next meeting. If you wanted people for a chance to weigh in. The only feedback I've ever heard about Arlene Hunter has been fabulous, but if you wanted to build that in, I think that would be okay. So either today or at the next meeting, be in a position to make her the interim city manager.
Realizing that there will be a public process and time for public input.
On the permanent job.
Correct.
Yeah. So if
that's a motion, I'll second it.
Okay, well, the motion is for today then.
Yeah.
Fred?
Well, I just wanted to ask a question of Audrey. Is there, in the event that somehow it didn't work out, is there any difference between the title of interim versus acting on her still maintaining her existing job?
As far as being assistant city manager, she can always go back to assistant city manager.
Well,
if
she's,
interim
right
doesn't
now,
work
she's
out.
the assistant city manager.
Right.
So if we elevate her to interim city manager, and let's just say it didn't happen to work out, is she automatically the assistant city manager again, or have we screwed that up?
I think if the position is open for her to go back into, then she goes back into that position,
Okay.
subject to the city manager. I mean, that's a labor call.
Yeah, we
That's
actually
something
don't
that-
have any say over employees. We have the
These two.
attorney and we have the city manager. They
Right.
make the call under, under them.
But
So
I,
we
but
have
I,
really no
but I
say over
know that
assistant.
if it didn't work out, she would not want to be out without a job, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well,
And that would not be right.
But that's why, in fairness,
why
I
I'm
bring
asking.
up this government light concept.
Well, that's why I'm asking this question. Is there any difference legally that would preclude her being able to go back between interim and acting?
Only if council abolishes the position, you know.
Or
so
doesn't
some-
fund it.
Well, she's still,
Right, if you
she's still
don't
the,
fund it.
she's still.
she's still the, what do you call? Assistant city
Assistant
manager.
city manager, right.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Sorry, Carl, didn't see you.
So I've actually been there and done this before, so I might add in here a little bit. So in the times where I have been appointed, the manager left, sometimes on like 6 minutes' notice. And it really, the decision for an interim is, and I don't want to minimize this, it's an important decision, but it is stopgap. In order to comply with the city charter, you have to have a city manager, okay, at all times. And so, because that's the person who's responsible for the day-to-day affairs of the city, or chief executive officer. And so what I have experienced personally is that the council makes the motion and makes the appointment of an interim city manager. All the other questions can be worked out after that, but at least you have someone in place, someone, at least in these circumstances, I know for sure I'm supposed to be working with as transition and try to make it a smooth one. So all of these other questions can be raised a little bit later, but I would recommend that that if and I know I'm a little biased here, but if she's done a great job in the assistant city manager's role, and everything I've heard from all of you as well as the public is the same thing that Councilmember O'Flynn said, which is just great things. Has a lot of respect around the county, that the position of assistant be kept open so that there's some security there, that if for whatever reason, okay, she is not going to be the permanent city manager, there's a place to go. All right? So, I mean, but again, this discussion tonight and asking the questions are all great, but really, this is stopgap, and this is a decision that you should be able to make tonight and work out the details on the back end.
Yeah,
That would be my recommendation.
My point is, if, based on everything that's been said and based on the consensus around, you might as well do it tonight. Why fiddle around?
We just did.
Wait
Yeah,
till-
we've got a motion and a
We've got a
second.
motion and a second.
Right.
Is there further discussion?
No, just to reiterate, it's 29 days until Carl leaves. We need some continuity.
Yeah, ditto.
Roll call, please.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba. Aye. Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
And Peter, if you want, I'd be happy to talk to Arlene about the issues Mike talked about.
Yeah, I think we both can.
Okay. Oh, all right, fine.
Yep, very good. I noticed Phil Flood is here, and Phil, this is probably a good time to have you come up.
Before
Yes?
just on the last item, if council's okay with this, I'm going to prepare a resolution confirming the appointment of Arlene Hunter as interim city manager, and I'll provide that to council at your next meeting. Or
Okay, great, thank you. Phil, come on up. Welcome, we're glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Were you able to get my presentation loaded in there? Okay. If not, I have it on a thumb drive here. So, well, thank you so much for having me, Mayor and council members. You know, the mayor had asked if I would come on down and give you all a little update on where we're at, what's been happening since the storm, Irma, and work that's underway. And I apologize for getting down here a little bit late. I had to be in West Palm earlier today, but I come back from West Palm with some good news, and I'll share with you in a little bit. So I really want to just kind of give you kind of an overview of kind of what's been happening and fill you in on what we've got in the works. Oh, thank you so much. And tell you what I'm aware of that others might be doing. And I'll just start off with the Imperial River cleanup. As y'all know, that DEP came on down there and they started working on a segment of the river. We came on down and took on a little bit more as well. There's probably just a little under, I think it's about 3.5 miles of the river over here. DEP focused on just cleaning out a navigational channel, whereas we were in there working bank to bank. And so we took on about 3 of the sections and then came back where DEP had been working to try to clean some of that up. And you know, I think it's very important, and I surely think that y'all do as well, that how important it is to keep that tributary open. It's the primary drainage feature in the community. So much of the community drains into creeks or tributaries that ultimately make it into the Imperial River. And I think the last time it was cleaned was in 1996. At that point, we gave Lee County some money, and we brought some staff in, and collectively we went through and went from one end to the other. And I do not believe it's been done since that time. I know we've given the city money over the years and to do some other areas of the community, but not here. So it was well past due, and so I'm happy that we're able to get that done there. And just couple of real quick pictures just to run through, give you an idea of what it is that we're doing. This is kind of where the debris was. In some places, it was like 6 feet over the existing water line over here. So the debris that was piled up over there, and so we came in, worked principally off of barges. We had hired contractors. We spent just in the neighborhood of $800,000 contracted out. We also utilized our staff to come and haul that material off, load it and haul it off, and pay the tipping fees to dispose of it as well. So, but a lot of it was just working right off of barges and then bringing it on to the staging areas that y'all helped to provide. And so you can kind of see some of the before and afters of what it looked like. You know, some places were much worse than others. It all didn't look like this, but.
Phil, go back. What happened to the house?
I don't know. You know, we're not responsible for that, so we did not take that.
The after picture. What the heck happened on the house?
I think it's still there. It's just off the side. I can actually see the porch rail up there on the right hand side over there. So, no, we did not take that. You would have heard about that if we would have removed that. So. And that's not in the contractors, you know. They just work from the edge of the bank to the other edge. So. In a lot of places, we couldn't even get the barges up in there to work, so we had to actually come in and limb things up, just raise that canopy so we could actually get up in there and do some of that work. So we got quite a bit of it done, and essentially, you know, everything from, I guess, Bonita Grand seaward over there, westward over there. So. We've also, we're in the works, we're talking with Lee County right now where we're going to take over the responsibility of managing some of the primary drainage features throughout the county. We've identified a little over a dozen of the principal drainage features. We're focused on the natural creeks as opposed to the canals and that sort of thing, but we're looking at the primary ones that other creeks and such might drain into. And so there's about a dozen of them throughout the county. The majority of them are down in South Lee County where the biggest problems are. And of course, the most important to y'all is the Spring Creek, Imperial River, Lightner Creek, Oak Creek, and the Keel Canal. And also ones that affect y'all as well is the Halfway Creek and the Estero River, both the north and the south branches. When those back up, when you have those tremendous storm events, when those back up, that water cannot get out that way. Where does it go? Well, gravity pulls it to the south and brings it down over here. So these are the ones that we're focused on. What we'll be doing is going through and cleaning and snagging them, taking out as much of the debris as we can, doing kind of what you saw in the Imperial River. So we're not looking doing dredging, nothing for navigation or anything like that, but trying to maintain those water flows over here. So we've been having these discussions with Lee County, and we're getting pretty close to hammering out an agreement. We'll be taking over the maintenance of these facilities here. So. Just kind of show you what we're looking at down here in your area, Spring Creek. We're looking at essentially the confluence of where Spring Creek South comes in. Boy, this slides got a little messed up. I apologize when I convert them. It's a little over 4 miles, so to go from the railroad grade all the way down there to Spring Creek. And our estimates right now, before we get bids on them, is about $1.2 million to clean up Spring Creek. Lightner, we're looking at from the Imperial Parkway, about 1.25 miles down to the Imperial River. About $400,000 to knock that one out. Oak Creek, the area that looks to be the worst is Pennsylvania Avenue to Redbud Lane Lake, about 2.5 miles, you know, on that one right there. So these are the ones that we're looking at. Oh, and then the Keel Canal also. We did not go east of Bonita Grand. Here we'd be looking at going from Bonita Grand to Vincent Road, about 3 miles, and coming in at a price at about $900,000. And that would be the contracted cost. We'll probably have, you know, staff costs and that sort of thing along with it. So those are the ones that we've targeted to work on here that directly affect your community. So. Some of the other things, of course, y'all are aware of the pumps that we brought in. We had to wait until the Keel Canal was, the Cocohatchee Canal had receded somewhat. It was once it had left its flood levels over there and had some capacity. We brought in a couple of pumps, and y'all actually operated those things. So we brought them, dropped them off, and Matt Feeney and his shop was over there operating, making sure that they were running. We took advantage of that land that y'all have, the Logan Boulevard property over there, and it was a natural conveyance. It's sandwiched between two developments that were, you know, elevated, and so it was a pretty simple thing. And at the southern terminus, right there at the county line, is a flowway that was constructed and required as a permit requirement from us to some of the developers down in Collier and in southern Lee County, that they maintain that open to keep the flowway going. So they have obligations through their permits to keep that open and free of debris and exotics and such. And so it worked out pretty well. When conditions were right, we could move that water down there. And as we all know, we've identified that as a potential conveyance, and y'all are getting ready to do some work on that. So with regard to conveyances, which is very important, you know, we got storage and conveyances are our primary ways, you know, mechanisms of trying to reduce some of the flooding, and by keeping open those conveyances is one. But here we're looking at those additional conveyances. Y'all are in the process of working on Logan Boulevard, and I apologize, this isn't the best map. I wish it was blown up a little bit more. As y'all are working on your design for the Logan Boulevard, we've committed to work to assist with that, where we'll provide some modeling to identify the appropriate amount of water that can go down there and where is that water going to come from. Look at some alternatives, some options of taking some water. And what we're looking at doing with these two conveyances, here, is trying to reestablish the natural flow, some of the historic flow that used to flow to the south. But we got to recognize that there's development down to the south over there in the Cocohatchee, and we're going to be limited by how much water can actually the Cocohatchee can take. So you can see just south of the development along Bonita Beach Road, there's a big undeveloped swath of land that kind of runs east and west, and then runs north and south, and that's that flowway that was put in there. So that will always stay there, and it will be utilized, to naturally let water flow to the south down into the Cocohatchee down there. So our staff has been out here, and our modelers have been out here and taken a look at the conditions out here. And I sat down with our modeler today in West Palm Beach, and he's about ready to come over and sit down with Matt Feeney and your consultants and talk about options and some ideas here for Logan Boulevard, what might be possible, what's not. The goal is looking at trying to move water from north of Bonita Beach Road under the road and down into a conveyance that could be constructed in conjunction with your road project over there. So Akeem wasn't quite ready to share a whole lot of information with me, but he says that they're getting pretty close to being ready to go. We're also looking at a conveyance out at the end of Bonita Beach Road out there at Bonita National. When that development was originally proposed and came in for permitting, we required as part of their permit to put two conveyances in there with the idea of moving 200,000 CFS from north of that development to the south and run it down through that flowway there. It made it in our permit, but when it came time to the permit be issued by the federal government, some environmental organizations took issue with that. They didn't like that idea, and they petitioned the Corps of Engineers and Fish and Wildlife, and they were not allowed to include that as part of their permit. And subsequently, they had to come back and modify our permit to reflect what the federal government required. So there's a berm that runs all along the north side of Bonita Beach Road, that runs right up on the north side of that project, Bonita National. However, they did construct the two flowways. There's one, the easternmost one was then utilized and is incorporated as part of their surface water management system. So their roadways and their ponds and stuff, they flow into that, which ultimately then makes its way and moves down to the south. So that one is not available. It's pretty much utilized. It's off the table. There's the westernmost one, however, is there. It's in place. It has the capacity of moving, with some modifications, the capacity of moving about 100,000 CFS water down through there. And so we've already initiated work. We've talked with Collier County on both of these conveyances, Logan Boulevard as well as this one, give them a heads up of what we're looking at, what we're doing, hear what their issues and concerns are. We've started talking with the Corps of Engineers about permitting a permanent conveyance there at Bonita National. We've talked with the landowner, the CDD out there, and the property, the folks that own that property, and starting to have those discussions, talking with all the entities involved. But right now, our staff is modeling that, and our intention is to design, permit, and construct that, all on our nickel on this one over here. So we think that's an important one, and as we get a little closer with the modeling and stuff, certainly be sitting down with y'all as we expand our discussions and everything. But it's important to realize that both the Logan Boulevard and this more eastern one out there at Bonita National, they come to fruition that we're going to be having to operate it based upon the conditions down in the Cocohatchee. So we're not going to be seeing a big culvert over there that's open and just water flows, year round. It'll be based upon flood conditions and when the Cocohatchee. It'll be operable structure. So when the Cocohatchee can take water, we'll be able to go over there and open it up and send that water down there. But we're looking to put as much water as we can down there within reason. So and it'll take some coordination. It's not a simple do. So but. I think most of y'all are aware, back in the 90s, we did the South Lee County watershed study, big evaluation looking at the entire watershed, and identified a number of projects out there to try to improve conditions over here. We worked with the developers to put flowways in. We constructed new conveyances. The railroad, we put in new culverts on the railroads, US 41. We came up with a whole suite of projects. Nearly all, not all of them, have been constructed. A couple of them, like the Bonita National, are just now coming around. You know, we've been stymied at others through the permitting process. But one of them was to buy the lands known as the Crew lands. It's the Corkscrew Swamp. And so we had identified about 60,000 acres centered around Corkscrew Swamp. And collectively, much but not all of the land has been acquired. Audubon owns the Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, which is kind of the heart of it. We've acquired a little over 29,000 acres of land, spent about $47 million to buy it. And Lee County has purchased some lands, and as has Collier County as well. And the Crew Trust is an organization that came up to help foster the idea and push forward the need for land acquisition and to protect and preserve this. And they assist in the management of some of these lands as well and help to try to push for the acquisition of it. Not all the lands have been acquired. There is an active land acquisition project out there, the Crew project, that's on the Florida Forever list, the state of Florida's list, and they actually received funding this year to do some land acquisition. So there's still some lands out there to be acquired, but we actively we own and actively manage about 29,000 acres of those lands. Spend about $750,000 a year just on the maintenance and management of those properties over there. But I just wanted to remind you that another option out there is to acquire some more of those lands. Lee County recently came and purchased the Edison Farms. About, I think, 3,000 of those acres are actually on the state's land acquisition list. So they targeted some of those lands and then a little bit more as well. So another option out there is for us to mobilize some forces and see if we can't, generate some support and some willing sellers out there to acquire some more of those lands over there. And then another piece of those Crew lands that we have is it's an area that's known, we call it the Southern Crew Project. It came out of the Everglades Restoration Plan, Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan. It's smaller. It's not like the big reservoirs and big large-scale restorations that are 50, 60,000 acres in size. This one is a little over 4,000 acres. We identified these lands are north of Bonita Beach Road and to the west or to the east of Bonita Grand. They were largely impacted with roads and canals and ditches. And they're centered around, they're in what is the headwaters of the Imperial River. And they're centered around the Kiel Canal. And the Kiel Canal was constructed many, many years ago, I don't know exactly when, for the purpose of lowering the water table, draining off those lands so that people get out there and utilize those lands, live out there, farm on them and stuff. And it worked, by constructing the canal, it lowers the water table, changes the ecology of the area out there. But we targeted this area because it had a lot of roads and some additional canals, and it drains that water off rather quickly. When it rains, it flows right into the Kiel Canal and then into the Imperial River. And of course, we know during those high flows, what happens, how quickly that water can rush in and overwhelm the Imperial. So we identified a project out there. It's a little over 4,000 acres, and it's all about trying to get the water right and trying to keep the water on the landscape. So what we've done is we've scraped down the roads. We filled in the canals, filled in those ditches. This one was just recently completed. It was pretty close to being done before the storm. It was probably 3/4 or more done, completed there. But we just wrapped it up, and I had the opportunity to take the mayor out to go see it here last week, I think, because just as we're just in the process of kicking all the contractors off of there and turning it over, making it open to the public, and become managed as part of our Crew lands. But a great project, and again, it's all about using it for water storage, using it to rehydrate the aquifers, recharge the aquifers, rehydrate the soils over there, and make an a nice ecological area here. So this map just kind of shows there's a dark brown border that goes around the outside. It's kind of hard to see over there, but it runs kind of parallels Bonita Beach Road and the Imperial River. But most of it was centered to the east of Vincent Road, and you can see the color coding is roads and ditches and canals where we scrape that down and filled them in and trying to restore that. So another thing that I want to mention, we've done a lot of work with some of the communities down here. We got lots of calls during and after the storm talking about flooding that they've had, some of the residential areas had, and we found a lot of instances where the flooding would have subsided much quicker if they had properly maintained their stormwater management systems. These two developments over here, they definitely would would have benefited had they maintained the berm that goes around their properties. In some instances, it was completely gone. Floodwaters came up, and it came right into their community. And several of them, both of them actually said, we want to pump, and we wouldn't allow them to pump because it was of no purpose. You pump it out.
Which
the water
two of those?
That's Citrus Park to the left and
Lake Shalimar.
Lake Shalimar to the right over there. So conditions did improve, and Citrus Park got out there and fixed their berm, and they were able to pump out and dry out a little bit over there, but Shalimar not so much. So we've been working with them and others, and trying to encourage them to get out there. And in some instances, we've actually cited them for failing to maintain their surface water management system. We always try to work with them before we start citing them and perhaps even fining them. But it's so important that the neighbors, the communities, people understand how their management system works, and that they make sure that they're operable. I can't tell how many times we walked out there and they said, "Oh no, everything works fine," and our guys just wait out there and they pull a couple of snags out of there, and pretty soon, the drain pipe opens up, and we were in Estero and did that very thing, and 50 or 70 golf balls just burped and came up out of the water, floated up to the top over there, and then boy, it all just drained right out and everything. So, but it's just so important that it's easy to forget about it. It's like the roof of your house. You don't worry about it until it leaks and you have a problem with it. But so it's just real important, and so we've been working where we're aware of these areas to try to get out there and advise them on how to do it. So what needs to be done. But as I wrap up, kind of what's next, what's going on. We've been working a lot with Lee County. They went out after the storm and hired some consultants to go out and identify problem areas in the different, I think 5 different watersheds. And they're pretty much the short-term things where culverts were plugged up, where things weren't functioning properly. And we've worked with them on identifying those areas where we have permits over some of these communities and some of these roadways and that sort of stuff. And we're working now through our compliance staff to get some of those identified problems corrected and fixed. And so we've been actively working with them on that. They're also gearing up to hire a consultant to go back and essentially update the South Lee County watershed study. Just go back and focus on this area down here. Take a look at where opportunities might be, some bigger long-term fixes. And so we've committed to assist them with that. Our staff is going to be working with them on developing a scope of work, reviewing the modeling that goes on with all that, helping review the work that comes back from the contractor, coming up with some alternatives and that sort of stuff. But that'll be real important to come back and see if we can't find some of the bigger projects, some of the more important ones where we can then start working on some of those there. So, again, we'll be hopefully working with y'all again and up in Tallahassee, see if there's not some opportunities to come to move forward with some of your priorities up there. But and then one that I learned about today, and I might be a little premature in announcing it. So if I lose my job, you guys can go to bat for me here. But no, it's not quite that bad. But our executive director has identified I think it's $95,000 to start work on Oak Creek. And so our staff was directed today to go out there and start working on the contracting and seeing what we can do. And Matt Feeney, I don't know if you're here or not, but I got to warn you, we'll be coming and working with you, talking with you, because we're going to need your assistance on identifying staging areas and things. We're no longer working under an emergency order. We could get away with doing things, throwing a pump in here, busting open a berm there, doing things that we wanted to do back when it was an emergency conditions and there was an emergency order out there. Now we've got to abide by all the rules that everybody else has to. We have to get our permits. We have to get all of our necessary authorizations. Our contracting, we can no longer just go and hire the contractor we want. We got to go through all that procurement process and all that sort of thing. So, but anyway, so we're going to go ahead and try to get things started on Oak Creek here and get the ball rolling on that. So.
Great. Thank you, Phil.
And I think that's about it. I probably forgot a couple of little things, but if you guys have some questions for me, I'm sure
Fred,
that I'm sure you do.
You got questions?
Yeah. Did you happen to find out whether you were the permitting authority on that big drainage ditch that goes from the northwest corner of Bonita Grande
Yes,
and
sir,
Bonita
yes,
Beach Road?
we do not have a permit across that.
Oh,
They're-
so it's
they're-
got to be the city that gets
It's,
that.
it's largely, yeah, it's undeveloped and so, there's nothing on that one, on that property right now, so.
Okay, we're good.
Mike, you have anything?
I was going to ask about Oak Creek, but thank you for the good news.
Pete?
Had a few things, Phil.
Certainly.
One is, I noticed on, out by Bonita National, the words you had where you're gonna design, permit, and construct, hopefully. Sorry, Mike's over here. I'll start again. On Bonita National,
Yes,
the
sir.
words you had were design, permit, and construct, but on Logan, it was modeling.
Yes.
Any way you can work your way up to construction, help us on that, because, and I know, I'm sure Peter and Fred have taught you about this,
Yeah.
but, you know, Matt's in the middle of that, that's real money for us, and it's kind of like the ship is starting to sail forward.
Yep.
What about that?
Well, I know we've had those discussions with our director, you know, in the past, and the commitment that he had made, you know, was we'd assist with the modeling, and you guys, it's your road, you guys would be doing that, so.
Right, but I'm
So-
thinking about the conveyance part
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, well, you know, you can ask again.
Okay.
You
All
know,
right.
but.
Right.
But, you know, last time we spoke, you know, his commitment was just, you know, we'll assist with the modeling and then, and it would be your
I
responsibility.
mean, it's in the
so-
context of thank you for all
Yeah.
the other money you're talking about here.
Yeah.
But it is critical for us,
Yep,
as
yep.
you know.
Yeah, I know, and it was one of your asks from the legislature to, you know,
Right.
to come up with that, and it didn't come to fruition there, so, but.
I had just, I think, 3 questions. On crew critical, so that's basically done. I know at one point crew critical, or what you call Southern Crew now?
So-
you know,
Southern Crew, yeah,
cr-
they're
used
one
to
and
be
the same,
Crew
yep.
critical, yeah.
Yep.
Used to be that there was a time, remember Janice Starnes, who's done a lot of great work.
She's still around?
Yeah,
She's here?
great decades worth of work on it. It did include more area coming toward Bonita Grande. And is, you know, in Beaver's report, he wasn't saying do that part of crew critical, but it was similar ideas. What about that? Anything?
Well, I know there used to be more from Bonita Grande to the east. There was
Right.
2 miles, but it was south of the Kiel Canal.
Correct.
North of Bonita Beach Road.
Right.
We started buying up lands over there.
Right.
But then it started getting developed and property started getting too expensive and.
Oh, is that what happened?
And then they end up re-looking at it, and then there's still houses that are north of that, which are, you know, we're cost prohibitive to go in there and try to purchase all of that stuff. But they took a look at it and they opted to just focus more to the western end, and we dropped out that portion. That's 2 half sections that are south of Kiel Canal between Bonita Beach Road and Kiel Canal. And that's those lands where we have about a half dozen or so parcels over there that y'all had asked that we not surplus them.
Right.
We'd identified them as not being needed for the project because the project boundaries were modified. So, but yeah, they opted to just focus on the eastern portion over there because it was too difficult to try to pick up all those parcels, and a lot of them were largely being developed along Bonita Beach Road. And so it just, from a planning perspective and a cost perspective, it dropped out. So.
Now, the South Lee County study, so the last time that was updated was '09. And, you know, our city manager, Gary, was right in the middle of that, the
Yep.
whole thing with Estero and moving water. So I heard you talk about you're going to talk to Lee County. How are we entering into that discussion as stakeholders, Bonita Springs?
Well, Lee County is going to kick off another modeling effort and look at and just revisit the flowways and everything and looking at all that. So I'm sure we'll get everybody together, you know, as they get a little bit closer to that. I mean, they're just working on the scope of work as I understand it right now.
Right.
Starting to talk about consultants and that sort of thing like that. So, but I'm certain that I know we had this discussion, the mayor and Commissioner Kiker and our executive director and ourselves about trying to coordinate efforts and activities, and out of that came me coming down here to talk about it. So, but we can certainly talk with Lee County about it. They're going to be the ones, you know, spearheading this thing over here on it. But certainly, you know, we'll need to get all the area stakeholders involved, and as they develop it, you know, have some meetings and that sort of stuff. I would suspect so.
And then, thank you for the whole list about the waterways that are going to be dealt with here. So I know that's evolved from, we were trying to have an interlocal with you into Lee County.
Mm-hmm.
So Same question. What's the dynamic of that with respect to Bonita? Or is it in Lee County's hands? We have to work with them with respect to scheduling, or how do we fit in that as we go forward?
Yeah, well, we're gonna use Lee County as the primary over there, and
Right.
and let them then coordinate with the other communities and such. I mean, we'll continue to stay in contact and everything, but we are right now, as the agreement is being talked about, is we'll have an annual meeting where we'll sit down with Lee County and talk about the priorities and where would they like to see us focus our efforts each year, on which one of these tributaries, will be the priorities there. So,
Okay.
and I'm certain that we'll all be talking collectively on this. I think everybody recognizes this is ground zero down here, and that's why the majority of the areas that we identified are down over here, and that's
Which
where we honestly we haven't focused much anything else outside of.
So
this
do you
area
think
south.
that focus is going to be on restoring natural water flows, like out by Lake Trafford, going south, things like that? Is that what you think?
Well, I think we'll see some projects like that come out of the South Lee County watershed
that's what I'm
study.
saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
things like that.
Right.
And maybe and maybe revisit. We've always wanted to look at the possibility of sending more water to Spring Creek,
Right.
and see if there's not an opportunity to do that. So through the South Lee County water study, they'll revisit all that and see what's changed since the last time.
So
and,
that's
and see if there's not a possibilities and looking at things like that.
Right.
It might go as far as looking. Do we want to build some sort of a reservoir somewhere?
Right.
And I don't know that a reservoir is a solution. But there might be some other things out of it. Who knows? There might come out of it deep well injection. That's
Right.
when we have too much water. Let's pump that water, pull it out of the river, and just pump it underground into the boulder zone and get rid of it. So but things
Right.
talk about it. Take a look at it. I mean, that's the purpose of these studies is look in the feasibility and
So
look at
that's
some of these
very
ideas.
important then.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Yeah.
Well, Phil, thank you
Yeah,
very
I mean,
much.
Yeah. We've got some of the simpler, the easier ones, some that we've identified
Right.
in the past, that hadn't been done, or, and so we've picking off some of those some of the easier stuff there. So, but
All right, thank you.
certainly.
Great, thank you. Laura?
Great presentation. Good to hear good news. So thank you.
All right, and I'll have to come by and say hello and introduce myself sometime. I didn't get a
Okay.
chance to see you out at Mr. Congressman Rooney's meeting. I saw you. You were in attendance over there. So.
Great, thanks. Craig?
Just great presentation, Phil. So all of the Imperial River is done. Is that what you're saying? It's completed, all the work is completed and everything? Okay.
Just the easternmost reach of the Kiel Canal, which drains into it. Which
Okay.
but yeah, that work is finished over there.
And
we'll
again,
start
I'm not
looking at
gonna
that.
hold you to a timeline, but what are we, like, for all those projects, when we're talking Spring Creek, the Oak Creek, which you said tonight, which was, thank you very much, and all those projects that you identified of the different ones, what are we talking time frame here? Are we talking 5 years, 2 years, 10 years?
Well, it'll depend upon where we focus each year our work. We can't get them all done in a year.
Okay.
That's certainly for sure. So, so I honestly don't. I can't answer that. I wish I could, but I would imagine we're looking at a couple of years before we get South Lee County.
And I know you
South Lee
stated
County
this.
done, and Lee County is doing some work on some of the other tributaries, and they've done little spot areas, but we're going to come back and do them in their entireties and clean them up nice.
And I know you said it, but is there any guarantee we're going to have a seat at the table when Lee County talks to you guys? Because they're going to be big brother on this whole thing.
Well,
You're not
they've-
going to come to us and say,
No, they have reached out to y'all. I sat down with the assistant county managers Friday, and I know they've had some discussions with y'all, and the same thing with Estero and such. So I know they're already talking with y'all about what's going on and everything. So
Just to follow up on that. So multiple assistant county managers did call us. Matt was in on the call. Arlene was in on the call. We all sat there and listened to the fact that it's going to be going through the county now. The same list you saw tonight was the one that they listed. Of course, I've got some of the same questions about the timing of the projects, not just timing, priority.
right.
Okay, if we're at the bottom of the drain, okay, shouldn't ours be going first? But I know I sound parochial there, so anyway. Okay.
and so we
So-
we put in there that we annually sit down with the county and talk about what their priorities are and what they'd like to see done. So
Right.
so that because things might change a year from now, 2 years from now, that sort of thing like that. So
And our understanding in getting off the phone from the county was that we would get a chance to look at the agreement as well before it gets adopted, so that we do have input, or at least get some questions answered on the agreement itself between South Florida and the county.
Okay.
Yep.
And I know at one time, and I may be speaking out of turn, at one time, we had one of those same agreements. Are we not gonna get one of those?
No,
that's
we
gonna-
didn't. No, it was the county, because
Okay.
before we existed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the county put together the initial agreement and submitted it to us. We looked it over, reworked it, added some things, and took some things out, I'm expecting to get their rebuttal here any day now. So we're getting close, I think, to coming up with something over here. So.
All right, last and final thing, since I do have knowledge and contract, can we put that in the contract that we do have a seat at the table? We do get input, not just Mother May I?
We wanted to have one person that we had to deal with and coordinate with, and so we felt, and particularly since we're looking at the regional conveyances and not the individual communities, drainage areas over there, that we just work it through the county over there and let them be the
So we gotta
liaison
play
to kinda
nice with
coordinate.
them
And
or
I'm
get
always
what we
around, and you can always pick up the phone and talk with me, and when we've been pretty good. I think Ernie's been pretty good about coming
No,
by
I
and
agree.
meeting that sort of stuff.
I
so.
think South Florida Water Management's great. It's just when the county says, no, our priority is gonna be the
Yep.
10-mile canal, not the Kill Canal. We
10 mile-
don't
10
have any.
10 miles not in the agreement, so.
Well, I'm just, in general, that's the only one I could think of up there at the time.
Because it's not natural.
It's not natural.
So, anyway, I'm just.
Sure, I understand. I understand. So.
I'm done.
Thanks, Greg. Amy?
Greg asked all my questions. I'm most concerned about how long it's all going to take, because some of these are very critical
Yep.
to how we're going to
Yep.
deal with any kind of emergency in the future. So, we're definitely going to have to coordinate all our activism to make sure that the ones that are most critical to us. And I understand they're doing some kind of a water volume study. Also, where would that come from? Where they can evaluate how much each of these conveyances.
Well, we're doing
You're
that.
doing
Our,
that,
our,
and
our
that's-
staff is modeling
and
all
that's-
that. And
That's regional, right?
Well, we're looking at how much can we move down to the Cocohatchee.
Yeah, but
Now, Lee
this-
County is going to be revisiting the South Lee County watershed
All right,
study, and so
that
that'll be
would
looking at
evaluate the
everything largely from State Road 82 south.
And all the conveyances
Essentially.
and how much oil can take and all that
Yep.
stuff. Because
Yep.
once that's done, then it seems to me that it'll be obvious that the ones that come through Bonita are the ones that need to be addressed. And I agree, from a physical point of view, if you don't clear the end, you can't do it up there, because that only exacerbates the problem further downstream.
Mhm.
But, I'm not a water engineer, but that's what I learned in physics.
Yep.
And thank you for getting Oak Creek on there, and hopefully we can get another one on there really soon, because we're only 3 months away from hurricane.
Yep. Yes, indeed. So we had our hurricane exercise yesterday, so all the staff working on, what happens in the flood conditions, that sort of thing. So, yep. 'Tis the season. All right, Mayor.
Right.
You're the last one. You got some
No,
questions?
no. I mean, look.
Well, you've been bending my ear quite a bit here the
I've
last
been
few
bending
weeks,
your
so-
ear quite a bit. That's why I wanted council to have their turn to bend your ear. I will be following up with you. Arlene and I met with a constituent today who's got a lot of concerns traditionally and over the years, so I'll be following up with you on that.
Okay.
As Ernie, Ernie and I continue to keep in touch, and you and I continue to keep in touch, we've too many cooks in the kitchen is what I heard. Rather than Estero nipping in your ear and Bonita Springs nipping in your ear, and you're trying to keep everybody happy. Through the leak, it's a regional effort. We know that. It's a Southwest Florida effort. It's all of that, and it's about dealing with water that's been coming down here for years. So I'll just share a story. We had a workshop here on Monday, and I'll back up to Saturday night when we had our daughter's prom, and proms have changed a little bit. There's pre-parties for the parents, and then the kids peel away and do their thing. But we were at a party, prom party with some parents, and, probably 200 kids, 150, 200 parents, a lot of people, right? So I'm meeting some people I knew. I mean, I knew some people, of course, but, then, people grab you. Hey, I hear you're the mayor of Bonita Springs. Hey, yeah, I hear you've been around, whatever. And they're like, well, how did you deal with the hurricane? How did you deal with the water? How did you deal with this? We remember when Bonita Springs didn't even have a, you can imagine what I'm hearing. Through the years, we've been around forever. And there wasn't even a stoplight at Bonita Beach Road. There was an old, so I'm hearing all these stories. But what my point to telling you kind of that you get the idea is, well, over the years, there was traditionally no people. There was nobody in Bonita Springs, very few people in Bonita Springs. And Fort Myers and the other areas and these other parts, they just would ship the water down. They routed it down to Bonita Springs because there was nobody there. So, good, better, and different. I'm just letting you know what I continue to hear out there. Do you have a historical perspective of that rough outline I've given you? Is there any merit to that? Are we up against history? Traditionally, has the water just been sent this way, or am I hearing an urban legend?
I think Fort Myers sending water down here, I would think that'd fall closer to the urban legend. It's just
well,
too,
take your pick. All right,
it's just too far to send that water down here. How do you get that water down here? You're gonna have to build some sort of canal. Now, you're gonna take the simplest, easiest way of diverting that water, and that's gonna be that creek that flows out to the river or to the bay over there. So, I'm sure there's instances where water was diverted. When those farm fields came in after the Kiel Canal was dredged over there, they put a berm there, and it stopped that water from flowing south of Bonita Beach Road and started sending it over there. Development occurs and all that. And so, when we got involved and the Water Management District came around and we started permitting, now we're looking at, okay, so where's the water going today? Historically, it may have used to go this direction, but the development is there today, you just can't send it there. So now you start working and trying to keep those flows going in those directions. So, we try to put water where it can go. We always try to keep those historic flowways, and we've learned an awful lot over the years because development has been, you've seen it in your community out here, it's been kind of hodgepodge, a little here, a little here, a little here.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon it's all filled up and there's no place for the water to go. That sort of thing. So, we don't have that luxury and be able to come in and say, all right, well, we're going to move this neighborhood and put that flowway back over here, and you guys are going to have to pick up and move. We're living here, so, we're trying to deal with what we've got. But there's no doubt some water has been shifted from one watershed to another. Through the South Lee County watershed study, we looked at sending more water through Halfway Creek, and we've accomplished some of that, but not all of what we wanted. But, you look at what those capabilities are, but when things are permitted, they look at what's the conveyance, what's the carrying capacity of this watershed. The watershed's so big, and there's an allowable discharge rate, and so irregardless of how many homes you're going to put over there, you're only allowed to discharge so much water out of there. So you're going to have to capture and store and hold that water, and then meet it out so that you're not overwhelming what's out there. So so we can't go back and put it back to the way it was. It's just people live in areas they shouldn't live in, a lot of times, and so we do the best that we can in trying to live with what we were dealt, I guess.
Right. And let me ask, I'm always
but
good.
yeah, no doubt some of it has been shifted in different directions
Right.
and stuff. But what the South Lee County watersheds showed us was whereas you have the Estero watershed, which in theory grabs all this water and sends it to Estero, and the Imperial grabs it and brings it over here. When those are full, where's all that water go? Well, it heads south and it comes down this way over here. And so then your watershed, the Imperial, grows and captures the Estero, and it just kind of grows exponentially when you have those tremendous rain events like that. So.
Right. So I'm always good for a zinger, so I'll close on this note unless there's other questions. But back in the annals of time, if you will, or going back to when we need to, for a point of reference here, the county, I guess, but who gave the go-ahead to extend Bonita Beach Road east of 75, knowing that there were these environmental issues and that the water flowed down to the Cocohatchee? I mean, how far is that going back?
County.
I honestly don't know. That's before my time period.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I honestly don't know. So.
Yep.
When it was paved?
Yeah. I imagine it probably existed in one form or another for long before it looked anything like it does today.
Well, a lot of part of the south part of Beach Road was DRGR under the county, and the county is the one.
Oh, before that, it was all farm fields. It
Yeah,
ended
understood,
at Vince or at. Gargiulio, and they had a
Right.
research farm out
For the
there.
art,
and-
right.
Somewhere
But it's to
around
answer your question, it's
the
to count.
early
Yeah,
80s, it
count.
was a dirt road from Bonita Grande going east. It was only paved to Bonita Grande.
Great. Council, anything else for Phil?
Yeah, just, I
just-
want
I
to,
was
sorry,
gonna-
Amy, go ahead.
I was just going to have a technical question. I know that there are certain criteria that are used when you do models for different developments, like the water retention for an inch and a half or an inch. I think you use an inch or something. And there's been recommendations that metric be increased. So my question is, if we evaluate our old stormwater management systems and they are way below that, what can we do about that? Do we have to go back and redo the old ones?
Well, I have no doubt that, well, some of your communities have no stormwater management
Right.
systems in the first place. And a lot of them, rules evolve over time, and, you see that, how high the house pads need to be. FEMA does a new study, and suddenly the floodplain is now, got to be a little bit higher flood elevations, that sort of thing. And so we can't go back and make people come up to the, the current standards, that sort of thing. But,
But in your new development, are you going to like 2 inches, or what are you doing? now?
We're going, but with what's in the rule, what the DEP and us, we have our existing rules here in this area over here. Actually, it's statewide, so those are the rules, and they could be modified if enough of the communities got together and said that that was something that they would like to see. That doesn't prohibit a local government from requiring more.
Because we have
So,
more, we
yep.
exceed our things. But this would reflect the release rate also. So you say that you're developing these communities with a certain release rate, but if they're not designed in a way that they can be accomplished.
Well, they have to meet that. They cannot go above and beyond that.
So what
They're
happens when
prohibited
they
by
flood?
law, so.
What happens when they flood?
Well, I don't think you saw a lot of the newer developments actually flood because they're built to the newer standards and stuff. But no, they're designed where they have that storage on site. Their ponds are there, and in some instances their roads go underwater. Their golf courses become part of that storage and stuff as well.
But if they're calculated at 1 inch when we need 2 inches, they're not going to be able to deliver that reduced release rate. So I think there's some technical
you can
issues.
always have that one storm that comes and just overwhelms, and it's the 200-year storm event sort of thing, and that happens, and it just doesn't. I don't think you'll see anybody wanting to build to a 100-year storm event. You just can't afford it. You can't afford to put a development in like that because of all the land that would be required for the storage and the treatment and the fill that's in there. And pretty soon you couldn't afford a house because they're putting half the number of houses that they can, building to the current standards and such. So I mean, but again, if a community wishes to raise the standards above what the state requirements are, and then that's entirely up to y'all. And some do. Some require a higher storm level for their roads. It varies throughout the counties and communities and stuff. So some are at 5-year events, some are at 10-year events and such. And so you have some communities. Why were my roads underwater? Well, they met the bare minimum. Whereas this other community, they weren't underwater. Well, they spent a little more and brought in more fill, and probably that's why that community costs a little more to live in than this community. But those are developer issues. They meet the criteria, and so we have to. If they meet the rules, we have to issue them a permit. So.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on Peter and Greg's point, and with respect to the South Lee County watershed study. I really don't understand why we in Estero, I'm not speaking for Estero, but wouldn't have a seat at that table. I mean, we went out, we hired our guy, and, we have our ideas, a lot of work's been done.
Well, this is a Lee County plan again, so.
Yeah.
So we're not doing it, so,
So you're saying
they're the ones that we would need to have this discussion with.
All right, but what was your involvement in like the 09? Or 97?
Back in
Yeah.
09, we funded an update to try to take a look at that.
So that's not what's happening here?
No. Lee County is doing it. We're providing assistance on it. But this is driven by them, by the Lee County.
So what kind of assistance? Technical assistance?
We're going to provide mostly technical assistance on it right now. So at this point, yeah.
Right. So it's not too late then for us to say, gee, I mean, can we have just, stakeholders. I mean, we have stakeholders when we do roads here.
Yeah, and I haven't sat down to talk with Roland Ottolini or their staff
Yeah.
about what their plans on how they're going to do it. I know that they're talking about trying to put the scope of work together now and start talking about, consultants and that sort of stuff.
The only thing I
looking at
suggest that is,
sort of
we
thing,
have
so.
definite ideas here, and we've been in the heart of the fight, so to speak, and got the brunt of it. Estero obviously has a lot of skin in the game as well.
Yep.
It just seems to me that from a public policy point of view, it would make sense to have.
And I think that goes along
It's
the
great
lines
that
of-
people are
yeah.
calling each other up. If,
Yep.
the city manager's being called. I mean, we have
Yep.
good relations there, but it just structurally,
Yep.
it couldn't be anything much more important. So how do we progress that?
Well, I know that Mayor, you and Commissioner Kiker had gotten together and talked about coordinating efforts and doing things, and that was the purpose of the phone call they had with us, and to discuss some of those things, which resulted in me coming down here.
Right.
But that might be another good opportunity right there. I know you've got a great
And I know he
relationship
called
and everything.
this afternoon, but I wasn't able to get his call.
Yeah, and I know he's totally on board with let's coordinate efforts and share information, that sort of stuff like that. So, but I mean, I'll certainly let them be aware of it.
Or
You
if
know,
you
so-
want to do it, Peter.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I mean, I'd be more than happy to say, yeah, absolutely, but it's not my, it's not my
Well,
my
you're
project. so.
obviously the water management district,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
you're
Well, and
involved.
I'll definitely, like I said, I'll definitely carry that message forward and
Yeah,
talk about it. So.
I assume council agrees, it's not one person here.
Yeah, so.
Fred?
Well, I want to just piggyback on something that Deputy Mayor Flynn said, and that is, on Logan Boulevard, most of that we're able to handle with road impact fees, but the part where we're going to put box culverts that go north to south, from the north to the south, under Beach Road, to take water out of the north side of Beach Road, even though it's initially going to be walled off till you get it permitted, that we can't cover, and it's around 500,000. And actually, we're draining county land, so I would like to think that South Florida Water Management can make a case to them that they ought to help us out on that, because it benefits them, I think.
Well, let's see what comes out of all the evaluation and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
we can always talk and see. It's going to be up to us trying to, just like y'all trying to find the money, us trying to find the money, and such. So.
Great. Council, anything else? Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Well,
and
thanks for
we'll
having me.
continue to be in touch. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you very much, Phil. Okay, we are now going to look at our committee assignments. Item B, under Roman numeral 8, appoint the mayor and members of council to various boards and committees, and this is Green Sheet 1805-0116. So, I know it. I'm looking for the green sheet. There it is.
I was thinking I would just take all of Steve's committees.
Okay.
Unless people want to switch different committees.
I'd like to have the Veterans Advisory, I'd like to have us,
Oh, I do too.
is that okay?
Can we both do it?
No, we can't both.
Oh.
There's one. Thumb wrestle.
Yeah. She said.
Well, ladies, what do you think? I mean, Laura's brand new. I'd like to hear her thoughts. I guess she gave them to us, but let's go through that a little closer. Steve had the Veterans Advisory Committee. He had the Fire Control District Liaison, the Human Services Advisory Council, the Lee County Sheriff's Office Liaison, and the West Coast Inland Navigation District. Ladies, I mean, I guess if you both want to do this committee, do you want to?
Well, if Amy really wants it, that's fine.
Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. Or I'll swap you one of these others. I don't
No,
know.
that's okay.
Okay.
Are we sure? Is that amicable? It's okay?
You want the rest of them more?
Sure, unless you want more.
I mean, I'll take, if you want this, the sheriff's office, but that doesn't really matter to me. I can't do the Weeson or the fire district.
Why don't you do the fire district?
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
I would like to, are we good? I would like to rotate off the Art and Public Places Board and Art and Public Places Board.
Okay.
And like to, I know Wonder Gardens got crossed off. Somehow I missed that in the middle of that transition. I definitely think we should have a city liaison to a major investment like that, and I'd like to volunteer for that.
Well, aren't we all liaisons now since we own it? Wasn't that the concept?
Right.
That's why I got cost. What
Well,
are you talking
d-
about on the board type thing?
Well, no, I think we should have at least a point person. I mean, obviously,
you mean to the board
obviously.
itself. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, obviously, everybody's free to talk to them.
Laura, I don't know if you're interested, but would you be interested in the Historic Preservation Board?
What does it entail? I didn't look at that one.
Arlene, you want to give it a rundown? I mean, I love it, but I don't want you feel like you're getting, shortchanged here on anything.
Sure. The Historic Preservation Board would be a monthly meeting, and we discuss potential properties for historic designation. We also review projects on designated properties. One of their major projects right now is looking at the development of a historic village, and they're going to be coming forward with some concepts on that as well. But they maintain the historical resources of the city.
And the meeting occurs at?
Usually the third Thursday of the month at 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
Because I'll be frank, because of, and we looked at moving it to accommodate my schedule, which wasn't exactly fair, but Thursday nights are tough for me. They just are. And it was, so we couldn't move it to Mondays, Tuesdays. We tried all different combinations, so it's a fabulous board. I think you'll enjoy it very much if you'd like to do that.
Yes, it'd be great.
Okay.
And I think you're right, Wonder Gardens should be liaison to the board.
And I'm on there as Southwest Florida League of Cities alternate. I didn't think that was me, so. But I mean, I guess it's alternate, so I guess I haven't needed to go, so.
I think that's the one that we meet quarterly up in Fort Myers. I go to it.
Yeah, you're, okay, so you're the main, well, actually it shows the mayor as being the main one.
Well, no, there's, the main one that the mayor is, but there's what's called the Southwest
Yeah.
Florida League of Cities.
Yeah, on here it shows Peter as being that one.
Peter.
And me as the alternate, but I didn't,
Well,
I don't remember.
I'm the one that's going and.
Okay, so you must be the
And
alternate going in his
not,
place.
not only that, I'm the
Goes down the
treasurer
list.
now.
All right, so you should have that one then.
Yeah, okay. I'll trade you BSU for that. You want that?
I can't meet their
Oh.
meeting times. If they met a little later.
Okay.
Would anybody like Art and Public Places?
When do they meet?
On Tuesdays at 5:15 on the, which Tuesday?
The second Tuesday of the month. at
Second
5:00.
Tuesday of the month?
I can do that.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else, council? How we doing?
Let's see.
Any more trades?
Mhm.
Waiver wire, anything
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Do we have
Dow
everything taken
Strawberry,
care
sure.
of?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Trade deadline is still open.
Trading deadline.
Yeah, the trading deadline is still open till 7:45, so we got time. We got a minute. No, but seriously, Laura, are you happy with your other thoughts, other committees you'd like to be involved with? I guess, and maybe this would be a discussion as an alternate, is there some, if one of us can't make it to one of these committees, do you want to be the alternate to, who knows? Take a peek there, Certainly don't have to be. I'm just wondering if you're, do you want to be, can we name an alternate to the Veterans Advisory Committee? If Amy's not able to make it.
Yeah, we could share it.
Well, we could do, if you're not able to make it.
Yeah, we could coordinate.
Okay,
We
great.
just can't go to the same meeting because then they have to notice it. That's the
Right.
problem.
Okay, yeah.
They're
Meeting's already
Oh,
noticed.
We can both go then.
They're already noticed and there's minutes taken at those meetings.
Oh, so we can both go. but that means we just can't talk, right, or something?
No, you can't.
I'll be the alternate. I'll be the alternate.
It's a public meeting, you can
Okay.
talk.
Oh,
We
well,
we could
then
also
we'll
probably put something on there that
Oh,
council
Both go.
members would.
Okay, that'd be great. That
Oh,
would
I'm
be
Be
glad
there and
we asked.
speaking,
I'm glad we
something like
asked.
that.
Perfect. There you go.
You can even
Dynamite.
talk to each other.
You can even talk to each other.
Oh, good.
Fred, do you have something, or are we good?
No, we're good. I was gonna say there may be two things you wanna add on it. One of them is, I think, Deputy Mayor Flynn is on some bicycle trails and all that, and he's the logical one to be on it, but you may wanna recognize that it is a.
Well,
is-
Mike's, I'm fine by that.
Okay.
Yeah, on the committee, yeah. I think that's complements each other.
So I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess motion to accept as amended?
Yeah, so moved.
Okay, great.
Does somebody keep track?
Yeah, I think,
I did.
Oh, good.
And Arlene, the historic meets on Thursday, this third Thursday?
The third Thursday of the month. And we're happy to help any new changes that happen, to set up meetings with the chairman and the staff liaison and kind of go over the current projects and bring everybody up to speed as well.
No, that's good. And could you send us a notice of when the meetings are to the ones we signed up for? That would be great.
yeah, maybe a master. Awesome, thank you. Okay, been a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Okay, Dynamite, we are moving right along here. We are about a quarter of the way through our agenda.
Come on, it's setting pace.
Come on.
Public hearing, I'll just,
We're on 10.
item 9 here. You want to tee that up for us? Thank you.
We skipped 9, sir.
That's the one we
10,
skipped.
aren't we?
We did 9
I'm
earlier.
sorry, item 10. Public comment on this public hearing will be allowed here. Yes.
Good evening, Carly Jean Sanseverino, Assistant City Attorney. Before you on another petition to vacate an easement. This easement is located in the Hidden Lakes project. It was originally a drainage easement intended for open drainage canal, and now it's going to be piping.
Okay. Council? As everybody's leaving, Mike?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Further discussion? Okay, now we're going to have public comment on this. There are 4 of us here, so we can vote. Seeing no public comment, roll call, please.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, item 11, first reading of the following ordinances and public comments allowed on these as well.
Yes, sir, they're all land use ordinances. I'm going to read the title block into the record of the first ordinance. I'll do each one separately, if that's okay. I have reviewed the affidavit of publication for the ordinances. They were all advertised on the same affidavit of publication. That's on file with the city clerk. And at this time, I'll read the title block of the first ordinance in file. This is an amendment to Bonita Springs Land Development Code, Chapter 2, Article 6, Division 2, Roads Impact Fee, amending Section 2-191, Rules of Construction and Definition, Section 2-193, Computation of Amount, Section 2-198, Refund of Fees Paid, Section 2-201, Exemptions, and Section 2-202, Credits, providing for conflicts of law, severability, codification, Scrivener's errors, inclusion in code, and an effective date. This is a first reading of the ordinance. The ordinance will be scheduled for a second public hearing on May 16th, 2018, with LPA reviewing the ordinance at its May 10th LPA meeting. I just want to point out that this ordinance was prepared after your first and second meeting in April, where you reviewed the impact fee study that was done by Clancy Mullen at Duncan and Associates. For the road impact fee, you went with his second alternative, reflecting the city-county project costs, which is the more recent 10-year span, which had the greater amount for the fee, which is perfectly acceptable because the Florida Impact Fee Act, the state statute, requires the impact fee be based on the most recent and localized data. So one can argue that is obviously the most recent since it's the last 10 years. Further, pursuant to the statute, there is a time urgency of this only in that under the state law, the the ordinance has to be adopted for 90 days before the fees can go into effect. So we can go longer if you wish, but at this time, the tentative date would be August 15th, 2018. If you hold it now, but if you wait till June, it'll be in September sometime.
Council, what's your pleasure?
So moved. Second.
So moved in a second. Further discussion? Okay, public comment on this? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Well, I just
Mike,
had
sorry.
one question.
Right in before the trade deadline. You're good.
Well, you were quick with the public comment part.
Well, you know, all right, sorry, buddy.
So on the hotel motel, it's showing that the new figure is 6,111. The crossed out figure is 3,745. Was that the 50% of what we were at? So we're almost back up to where we were with these new figures. Okay, and then the other numbers, the movie theater. Why is that like double a shopping center? Wouldn't you get more cars going to a shopping center than you would a movie theater?
It's a 12-plex.
Good evening, Jacqueline Genson for the record. Based on the impact fee model, it's all based on trip generation. So as Clancy Mullen had explained at the hearings, that it's all based on a manual that they revert back to, which is done by the Institute of Traffic Engineers. So that coupled with the construction costs, it all goes into a formula, and that's the figures that come out.
I just don't see how that's logical. I mean, being a manager for Publix for years, I know the turnover of cars. And in a movie theater, they're going there and they're sitting there for 2 hours. And there's way more cars at Publix than there's at the movie theater.
So the formula they use is a combination of number of trips generated and the number of miles traveled from the home to the movie theater and back. And so it has both the trip generation and what they call VTM, or vehicle miles traveled. And so that's the combination of the formula they used. And so that's the reason you have that, what would appear to be a disparity, because typically when I go to Publix, I'm going on my way home.
There's one on every street corner.
And the number of miles traveled is much less, even though there's more trips. Going to the movie theater, there's fewer of them. I may drive 10 miles or 15 miles to go to the movie. And that factors into the cost of the construction of the road for that number of miles.
And what's your average size movie theater?
I don't remember.
Or do we know what the size of the one here in Bonita is?
Yeah, it's 12.
Well, no, I mean, it goes by 1,000 square foot,
Oh.
so I'm looking for square footage, not.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
Well,
Hey.
usually there are multiple viewing auditoriums.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out a ballpark number, because
I would-
33,000 a square foot is, I mean, for 1,000 square foot, it just seems like it's going to be a very high number to build a movie theater. Not that I'm, going to build a movie theater, but.
Yeah, and
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but banks typically aren't the size of a movie theater. Banks are maybe a couple thousand square feet. A movie theater, I'm thinking it's probably more like 20,000 square feet or so. Okay. No, I mean, I just kind of had just a question on those numbers. So
why they're
they
$14
just
a
seem
ticket.
kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly.
Oh, I did have one other
Popcorn's
question
$15
on the
and a
gas
large
stations.
soda's $9.
So why do we have two different figures for gas stations, less than 10 fuel positions and more than 10? And wouldn't you want a higher impact fee for more than 10 pumps?
Which way does it go?
Because it's reversed. It's more expensive to have a smaller gas station and cheaper to have a bigger one. So the way it is, it's actually cheaper to have a 8-pump gas station than it is, or no, it's cheaper to have a 10-pump gas station than it is an 8-pump gas station. Are those numbers right? Should they be? Did they get reversed somehow, or what's the reasoning for that?
I think the numbers are right. I think the issue again gets into this whole vehicle miles traveled. So on the bigger gas stations, take a racetrack, and we'll take the one everybody talks about on the corner of Bonita Grand there, which is actually in the county. The volume of cars that go by there and the vehicle miles they travel to get there could be substantially less than, say, the Circle K on the corner of 41. On Old 41 and Bonita Beach, just because, again, the vehicle miles traveled. And it's based on these national studies. One of the things that we had asked him to look at, and haven't got some of the results yet, is that there are things that are unique to where we live that aren't not necessarily national. And so if there is something like that, we can always say, adjust it in the future if we find that there's empirical data that suggests that there's something unique. Perfect example is our traffic here. Like right now, there's not a traffic problem. Everybody's gone home for the season, but traffic's going to double here in 6 months or so. And so you are allowed to take those considerations, but when Duncan Associates did this, they took some of those considerations in, but they're using national averages on those vehicle miles traveled.
Yeah, I would just think that a bigger gas station should be a bigger impact. Because I would think that you'd actually travel further to go to a bigger gas station. The small ones, you're on your way, oh, I need gas, let me pull into this little one right here.
One of the many things that gets into this, and this is sort of strange, is that there's a national average of how far somebody lives from where they work. And I think one of the reasons you're seeing the numbers that we have be where they are is that without workforce housing, which everybody's trying to achieve right now, I think the average is somewhere between 20 and 25 miles that somebody travels to work. And so when you add that and you add that into all the different trips they make, it has this huge impact. And I know enough about the science to say that there's a lot of voodoo to it. But it's like practicing medicine. It's a practice. It's as much an art as it is a science.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Traffic
Yes.
planning is, the traffic planning in the county.
Yeah.
This is only the first reading, so I can ask Clancy the questions
Okay.
you've asked and get back to the council.
Okay.
Those
Thanks.
answers. So we're talking the gas stations and the movie theaters? Were those the main ones you were interested in?
Well, I mean, to me, it just seemed really high for the movie theater to be double of a shopping center.
Okay.
And then the gas stations having
Right.
the larger gas station be a less of an impact than the smaller one.
Okay.
And then I received an answer on the car wash semi-automated from Clancy, and I gave it to John, but I haven't cleaned that area out yet as to how to address it. But he felt just treat it the same as any retail at 1,000 per square foot for the bay, the one area.
Okay. Anything further, Mike?
That was the only questions on it.
No, great, thanks, good, great questions. Council, anything else? Okay, there's been a motion and a second, no further discussion, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Okay, Audrey, moving right along.
Thank you. I'll begin with the next ordinance, and like the last one, the title block is legally sufficient. This is an amendment to Bonita Springs Land Development Code, Chapter 2, Article 6, Divisions 3 and 4, combining regional and community parks into a unified parks impact fee, amending 2-235 definitions, Section 2-236, imposition, Section 2-237, computation of amount, Section 2-239, benefit district established, Section 2-242, refund of fees paid, Section 2-244, exemption in Section 2-45, credits, deleting Sections 2-274 through 2-288, the former community parks impact fee provisions, providing for conflicts of law, severability, codification, Scrivener's errors, inclusion in code, and effective date. This ordinance is currently a first reading where public comment is permitted. The ordinance will be scheduled for a second reading and public hearing on May 16, 2018, with LPA reviewing the ordinance at its May 10, 2018 meeting. At this time, the ordinance, I want to point out a few things. And the table is the same table you heard at your first meeting in April as far as the dollar amounts for the combined impact fee. And what was provided to you was the sum of both what we called regional and community park impact fees. There was changes with making it into one parks impact fee. One of the things that did occur in making the change is taking out definitions such as community park and regional park, which had a lot of language laboriously in there to distinguish what is a regional park, what is a community park. In this case, the definition was simplified to park means attractive land designated and used by the public for active and passive recreation. So you can still use the parks for trails, hiking, bikeways if you so desire. There's no connectivity as a requirement now. Before, there had to be a lot of language in the definition. I made this much more simpler. I just want to make sure council is comfortable with that, because I can add more into a definition, but when you add more, even if you add the words including but not limited to, that could create definitional problems in the future. So, council, your pleasure, if you want me to keep a simple definition, or if you want me to change it to something more. This is the definition he had in the impact fee study, so a very simple definition. I could change it back to something more complicated. Otherwise, this is getting rid of a lot of code and a lot of strange distinctions that nobody understood why the distinctions were there, so I think people will be pleased with it.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second.
Public comment.
Public comment? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Okay.
The next ordinance, and again, read the affidavit publication, it's in the record and filed with the city clerk. I'll read the title block into the record. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 3 of the Land Development Code, Development Standards, amendments related to complete streets, amending Section 3-5, General Requirements, Section 3-6, Specific Requirements, Section 3-81, Deviation and Variances, Section 3-136, Additional Required Submittals, Section 3-158, General Requirements for Limited Review Process, Section 3-259, General Design Standards, Section 3-263, Bike Facilities and Pedestrian Facilities, Section 3-269, Outdoor Lighting, deleting Section 3-288, Official Traffic Way Map, creating Section 3-288, Liability Insurance Requirement, amending Section 3-289, Special Access Provisions for Bonita Beach Road, Section 3-291, Connection Separation, Section 3-292, Traffic Impact Statements, Section 3-296, Local Streets, Section 3-297, Access to Street Required, Section 3-298, Public Streets to connect to existing public streets, Section 3-300, Continuation of existing street patterns, Section 3-302, Street Construction Standards, creating Section 3-303, Complete Streets Design, amending Division 3, Surface Water Management, Section 3-324, generally, and Section 3-325, Roadside Swales, amending Division 7, Public Transit, Section 3-438, Required Facilities, and Section 3-439, Exceptions, deleting from Article 5, Illustrations, Tables, and Diagrams, Section 3-528, 4- and 6-lane arterial roadways, Section 3-529, Collector Streets, Section 3-530, Public Local Streets, and Section 3-531, private local streets, providing for conflicts of law, severability, codification, Scrivener's errors, inclusion in code, and effective date. This ordinance just had its is going through its first reading. It has been reviewed by the local planning agency, and it was found legally sufficient. They did make some recommendation of changes, of which Lindsay, you're here, so if or Arlene can make those recommendations if you'd like to hear them. At this time.
Oh, good evening, Mayor and Council. We just wanted to update you that in front of you, you have the updated cross-sections that the last council meeting, Councilman Gibson had asked that we reflect those.
The only thing though, there, I wanted that one for the shared lanes, but in the separated bike lanes, when it's its own lane, the other one was fine, the bike with the regular arrow.
Okay.
But, you know, that one being the sharrows for, you know, shared use motor vehicle and bikes. I just wanted to differentiate between the two. So a car didn't think that if it's a wider bike lane that, hey, I can drive over there because it's the same symbol that's on the other road, so.
And then we stand by for any specific questions that you all might have, and Lindsay's here to assist as well.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Public comment. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba? Aye. Councilman DeWitt?
Aye.
Good
Okay,
job,
Audrey.
Lindsay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
great
just
job.
wanted to thank Lindsay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dynamite. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The next ordinance is an ordinance amending Chapter 9 of the Land Development Code, amending Article 2 definitions to add complete street definitions, providing for conflicts of law, severability, codification, Scrivener's errors, inclusion in code, and effective date. The affidavit of publication is on file with the city clerk. The ordinance was reviewed by the local planning agency at their April 12th meeting for consistency was found consistent with the comprehensive plan. I believe we have one definitional change. It's not in this draft, but it'll be in the next draft. You'll see it, as well as the other ordinance. There'll be a revised draft that will be on file with the clerk before the next public hearing. I think.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Public comment. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba. Aye. Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Good job, Lindsay.
Keep going.
Even better on this one. Okay.
This was a great one.
Yeah. Audrey,
We'd
I'm
also like to
sorry.
thank community development staff, especially Sean
Oh,
and
yes.
and Tricia Goff for their
Absolutely.
assistance in this.
And Stu.
Yeah.
All right. Dynamite. Thanks, everybody. How we doing, Audrey?
And for your final first reading of a land use ordinance, the public hearing of the following ordinance, I'll read the title block in the record. The affidavit of publication is on file with the city clerk. This is an ordinance of the city of Bonita Springs, Florida, extending ordinance number 17-12, the temporary moratorium related to Bonita Beach Road visioning study and quadrant study in the comprehensive plan amendment approved May 3rd, 2017 as ordinance number 1706, continuing the moratorium on the processing of any zoning or other community development applications within the Bonita Beach Road quadrant map or Bonita Beach Road corridor area network zone map, providing for a severability effective date. The ordinance will be reviewed by the LPA at their May 10th meeting, and just make sure she knows. And the ordinance will be, I'm sorry. If approved, the ordinance, there's some mistakes here. The ordinance will be scheduled for a second reading and public hearing on May 16th, 2018. Obviously not June 21st, 2017. That was taken from ordinance number 17-12, which also was not attached to this. I apologize. And that will also be attached to your next copy.
So moved.
Second. Whoops. Amy, you got me. All right. There's been a motion and a second. Public comment. Seeing none, roll call, please. Oh, Amy, sorry.
One question. This still allows for someone who wants to have an application, if they're willing to comply with the gist of the visioning, they could still execute.
Absolutely.
Right, it's just, there's a provision in there, so it's no different from what the other moratorium.
Yes.
Okay. No public comment? Roll call, please.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba. Aye. Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye. Something in that Diet Coke over there, Greg?
Sounds good.
Audrey, I think you're in good shape, or?
I'm happy, Shaper. That concludes the ordinances. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thanks,
Ladies.
everybody. Now we're going to move on to public comment. Members of the public that would like, just on any old thing, not on these ordinances, and, okay. Yes, sir. Please come forward. How you doing, guys? Welcome.
Pretty good. For the record, my name is Patrick Shealy. I live on 28071 Mango Drive in Bonita. This is Scott Kroger. He lives at 28070 Mango Drive. We're here because we'd like the council to allow a speed bump on our street. Mango Drive is mostly a residential street with 30 single-family homes. We also share the street with Fire Rescue Station number 2, as well as 2 daycares. Daycares create additional traffic, but they're really no issue. The reason we're asking for the speed bump is that people use Mango and Katrina Drive as a cut-through around Vanderbilt Drive and Bonita Beach Road. Naturally, cars cutting through residential neighborhoods for shortcuts tend to go a little faster than the speed limit. And we're concerned for the safety of the residents and the children on our street. We've talked to the city a couple times, and we're told Bonita Springs does not permit speed bumps on public roads. Specific to our circumstance, we were told that it would slow down the response times of fire and rescue. And safety of residents is, that's why we're here. So we're clearly not trying to get in the way of fire and rescue vehicles. However, being the neighbor to fire and rescue, I can tell you they turn right and head to Bonita Beach Road 95% of the time. While the other 5% of calls are certainly important to us, their impact would be minimal because the speed bump if it were to separate commercial and residential zoning areas, would be about 20 feet off their driveway. So they'd still be going slow, still be able to roll over. It shouldn't really have to slow down. In our opinion, a speed bump is a simple and inexpensive solution, increases the safety of residents, children with minimal impact to the fire rescue station. So we asked, do you vote to allow a speed bump on our street and give us guidance on how we can properly permit and install it?
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. If you could make sure we have your information, we'll certainly follow up.
Okay.
Okay? Wonderful. Thank you very much for being here. Other members of the public? Ben?
Ben Hershenson, yeah, thanks.
Welcome.
Good evening, members of the council. I just want to give some positive feedback. I have other agenda items, but I'll leave them from another day. This is good stuff. As you know, back in August, the city council did take some time to respond to some issues dealing with my community's stormwater management system and some impact it had, in the area of Paradise Road. I was pleased to announce that the contractor began the work on Monday. I really probably shouldn't mention them, but what a great company, Haskins. And they brought a big crew out there, and they're actually pretty much finished at this point, and they plan that this whole thing will be wrapped up and actually buttoned up by Friday. I never saw any such efficient work, so and Matt was out yesterday, and I just want to thank everybody from the city, from Public Works, Community Development, who were really great assistance to us as we began to plan this work. So again, as president of my HOA, Fairwinds, I just want to thank the City Council for doing what it did, and I can say to you that it appears that and hearing so much since the hurricane about stormwater management and the essential need for communities to maintain it, otherwise it's not going to work. And we've done that. In fact, we're even going to do a pipe clean out, to make sure that we ever get hit again with anything close to Irma. I would say that we're going to be pretty ready to deal with it. And I'm really happy to report that the project has gone very, very well. It's one thing that worked out very well. So again, thank you very much for what you did, and I just wanted the council to hear from me directly that the work is essentially completed. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great news. Thanks, Ben. Other members of the public? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move along to the city attorney's report.
Nothing.
Okay, great. Thank you, Audrey. City manager's report. Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have the monthly financial reports and the capital projects status report. And unless you have any questions, that's all we have, sir.
Great. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. Gesundheit.
Matt.
Matt, bless you. Okay. Council, any questions for the city manager? Okay. Mayor and council member reports. We'll start with you, Fred.
One thing I'd like to suggest, and that is, if we do consider doing anything like speed bumps, that they be speed tables, and that's kind of the latest trend, and it's much better than a speed bump, but very abrupt usually, and a speed table will control speed, but it won't tear the car up. And in fact, I think our consultant, was it DPZ, that they were talking about that for crosswalk. So that I also was able to get two of our communities in east of Bonita together to talk about common stormwater issues, Quail West and Worthington, and I think a lot of good came out of it. The original objective was one thing, and they agreed to work together in a different way, and that's still good.
Okay, great. Mike?
I was actually going to mention the same thing about the speed table versus the speed bumps for Mango. And also just the public comment earlier in the meeting about the crosswalks on Terry. If we can take a look at painting some crosswalks on until Alta does the permanent ones. I know we asked Alta and they said we didn't really need to, but apparently the community would really like to have crosswalks just so that way it's, the cars know that somebody's trying to cross right there and protects them a little more. So.
Okay, thank you. Pete?
I actually had speed tables. Two things. One is, on the watershed study, sometime in 2011, I had lunch with Gary Price, who had been through that, and, you know, Greg, you probably remember, but that was a very big deal. That 2009 the watershed study had everything to do with not just flow through to Halfway Creek and Estero River, but how much it could take, and the big fight about how high those culverts were and how much water they could take. And in a nutshell, Gary felt, having come in out of that he was properly pretty frustrated that more water, in his view, should have gone east to west north of us. So I think this is a big deal. I mean, it's the same constituents. It's Lee County and it's the Water Management District. I think it would pay, so to speak, for Carl, for you to give, if you wouldn't mind, give Gary a ring and kind of debrief him on that and talk to, you know, what the issues were, or however you want to do it, you know. And I really am, on this one, extremely interested in this structure. And Peter, I guess you had some chats with Larry or whatever, but if this is as big a deal, and it should be as big a deal as '09, I really feel we should, and Estero, we can find out what they're doing, really be, you know, there, not just it's polite to call us up. I think the structure of this is a huge deal, the structure of how it's organized. And Gary might have some ideas about, you know, how it was organized the last time, or I know it was like a 2-year thing, you know, and some big fights over that. So just a thought.
Pete, just to pile on with that, I
Yeah.
think it's more important this time because we've just seen what a large amount of water drop in here, how it's going to react,
Yeah.
how it's going to act. And we
Right.
see it's acting as it's coming this way.
Right.
So I think it's bigger than that.
Is that fair, Peter?
Absolutely.
Is that
Absolutely.
consistent with what Larry was saying, or inconsistent, or?
It's, you know, here we are at a public meeting.
Okay.
It's somewhat consistent.
Okay.
It's not completely, so I think we should do exactly what you're saying.
Okay. Then the other is a more minor thing, but I reached out to Steve Lohan, this is on the fire station on Hickory. I reached out to Steve Lohan right after that meeting, and I talked to him and talked some to Carl and Arlene about how we could value engineer. By the way, Laura, the end of the story is it's coming your way. Is she here? That's your district. So you weren't here then. And today I got a call from another fire commissioner. So the way we left it with Steve was we were going to look and see whether any value engineering could be done to bring that cost down. And I know you've gone back and forth with Sam. We're not quite there yet on that. But today I got a call from another fire commissioner, and I called Steve about it, Lohan, and he was basically politely saying, "Oh, we got to move on this, and what we want to do is put a something out there like Bonita Bubbles has in terms of to cover the engines, because the heat's too much, and the summer is going to be a lot of heat and all of that." So I just want to advise council of that, but I do think, Laura, you were not here then, and it's your district, and I think, frankly, it's best to pass the baton to you on that. I mean, not that others of us can't talk to people in the fire district. If that's okay with you? Yeah, so.
You can't talk to me, though.
And I know, I'm sure you know, people on Little Hickory were concerned about it, so that's, you know, if there's anything more I remember, I'll send an email around just to Carl, and he can circulate it factually. But that's, that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Laura?
Nope, I'm good.
You're good? Okay, thanks. Greg?
I just want to take this opportunity to apologize to the council for not being there Monday. I know it was a big deal. I had already made plans to be out of town for that conference, and I didn't see a necessity to postpone it again. I know we had scheduling conflicts, so I know it was important. I just wanted to take the opportunity to apologize to you guys and to you guys that I wasn't there.
You were good at 6 a.m., but not 8 a.m. Okay, all right.
We had a good meeting.
That's what I hear. It was great, so I'm going to watch what video.
Watch the reruns.
I have to fast forward a
The
few things.
reruns, yeah, right. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, nothing else.
Thank you. Amy?
Just two quick things. We got an email from something called Eyes on Conservation.
I'm sorry, the microphone. Thank
We
you.
got
Sorry
an
about
email
that.
from Eyes on Conservation 220 that requested that we send emails to all the Lee County Commissioners
yeah.
asking them to support Florida Forever 2020, whatever it is.
2020.
And 2020.
Yeah.
And so I wondered if we should send it from the council. I mean, I can do this, but would it be more powerful if we send it from the council?
I think so. What do you
Yeah.
think? Is
I
that
do,
fine?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
can we have Arlene draft something?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking? I'll show you
I
this
agree.
thing.
Yeah. And I'll sign
And
it.
then you'll sign it. You know.
Absolutely.
I mean, we could do it individually too, but I think we should at least have one that. And then I just want to, again, I have to apologize.
Well, let me ask you this, Amy, seriously, not to bog you down with this, but do we want to prepare it for all of our signatures? I mean, I've seen those type letters done that way, too.
We could.
Why don't we do that? We'll all sign
And
it.
then somebody could sign
Yeah.
it for us, or we don't, you know.
Well, no, oh, no.
We have
Come in
all-
each and every day and sign the
Well, it
documents
has
that
to be-
need.
For the piece and for the pound.
Well,
You know,
Lee
I
County,
really
the
like that idea,
commissioner, no, it's
Peter.
fine, but.
Yeah.
Because these
Yeah.
guys have a way of,
March 15th is when they're having their meeting, so we have to do it by March 15th. May 15th, May 15th. I'm sorry.
Hey, we got plenty of
I'm-
time.
I'm sorry. Well, those cold pills are getting to me now.
No. Yeah, no, I think, if Amy, if you don't want to, I'm not saying, but.
No, that's fine.
Let's prepare for all of our
And
signatures.
then you'll tell us, and we'll come in and run in. All right, good. And then the other, and I have to apologize too, because as you know, I had a bad week here health-wise, so I had to cancel a meeting with Arlene, and I didn't get to review the objectives that we're getting ready for our May 22nd workshop. But I promise I'll try to get it before the next meeting that we have, so that you'll be able to review it. We do have a firm workshop date, don't we, on the 22nd? It's at 5:30 or something. And again, we only got one response, so if anybody has any suggestions, just send it to us, and I'll try to incorporate. So what I'm hoping to do is get some feedback from Arlene, and then to narrow it down to just a couple of things that are all doable, and just talk about strategic things.
apology accepted.
Okay?
If
Don't
I
ever
might,
get sick again, Amy.
Not like this, anyway.
Councilmember, if you could maybe clarify for the council what your kind of expectations are for a council response on the
Well-
items, because the list is really long, so.
Right, well, just what you think are the objectives that we should be following going forward over the next year or more. And then the second part of our meeting is for us as a council to talk about how we could run our meetings more effectively and more efficiently, not only with time, but just how we could work together to work on specific projects, so we could help each other to get some of these things that we want done. You know, we each are taking over kind of responsibilities, but sometimes we need other people's help. So, so if anybody has those ideas, then we should talk about it also. And the mayor's gonna run that part of the meeting, and I'll just handle the objective things once I get it. But I'll get you the green sheet that's better organized before our next meeting, so you can think about it. And then if you have any suggestions, it's supposed to go to Carl, and then he'll email me, and we'll talk about it at our meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry, so I want to,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so, well, no, it's okay. So,
Don't ask me.
we just want to be clear, though, that my understanding was your expectation was that the council would not be discussing any of the objective topics in detail.
No.
Okay, the council may wish to know that expectation,
Yeah, I
so-
mean, we're not gonna be if we do transportation, we're not gonna talk about all the transportation, we're just gonna say, yeah, there are enough, we might say casually, there are certain things that we wanna do for transportation, we wanna keep it as a top priority. Beyond that, I don't know what else we're gonna talk about. We might have more discuss if there's some question about the prioritization of some other objectives. But we're not gonna solve any problems here. We're just gonna say, this is something that we really need to work on. And just an example, the emergency thing that Fred brought up last meeting, I think that shouldn't be an objective in the sense that it doesn't need to be an objective. It should be a workshop, you know, or it should be a task that we pass through the manager to the staff to do a white paper or some kind of thing. And we could provide input, like all the suggestions that he made, and if we have any other suggestions, they could incorporate. So I don't know if that really needs to be an objective, but if somebody disagrees, let me know. And that's what I'm gonna write up when I do it, so that you'll have more to to see, but we probably should come up with like 4 or 5 of these things, because more than that, we can't do it.
Do you want to use this as an opportunity, too, to kind of frame our legislative priorities? Or start
Well,
framing them?
well, I don't know about,
But I mean, you just said transportation. I mean, do we
Well-
want to keep that a priority? Do we want to make it a legislative priority? Not that I want to get bogged down with this now, but I think,
I think they could be used to frame them, you know, once we decide what we're gonna really be most concerned about in the future. Let me work on it. I think that a lot of these questions will be, and again, if there's something that's everybody thinks are we really have to do this, we really have to do that, let me know. Because these are my ideas pretty much, you know, it doesn't only have to be mine. But I used all the old ones too, I incorporated that too, so I didn't eliminate anything.
On the,
Fred?
on the emergency response, we're gonna let the staff tell us
Correct.
what they've done, right,
Correct.
first?
Yeah, exactly, I mean,
Good.
but we don't have to spend 2 years doing that. I think it would be sort of like schedule it sometime before the hurricanes start, you know, we might want to know what's happening on.
So this is meant to like bubble up a collective view of what's important and
What's
nail that
important.
down.
Exact-
Not nail down the solution, nail
No.
down that it needs to be addressed.
If we have a solution, we probably don't need it on this
Okay, all
list,
right.
you know. It's more what we think is really important. And I'll just mention another thing, which I had down, I don't know if I would incorporate it, is that I do think we need to have a strategic plan for how we do this outreach that we're talking about to these other entities, you know. We can't, it's too much effort for us to only rely on the mayor to have to, you know, put too much pressure on him to have to always go talk to the council. You know, we should help him with that. So, with the commissioners, you know, I think we can be more effective, and we could, I think that's something we need to talk about.
If it's coordinated.
Excuse me?
If it's coordinated.
If it's coordinated, but maybe nobody agrees with me, but I think it would be helpful. So that's one of the things we'll talk about. So
Okay.
let me get it working, and I'll put all my side comments, and then you could decide that's ridiculous or not, or we're in favor, or
we'll
that's
have a
not.
discussion on it,
That's,
yeah.
I'll have a discussion.
Yeah. Sounds great. Anything else, Amy?
No, that's it. Oh, and I did talk to one of the fire commissioners, and they said basically the same thing that you did, that they were desperate to get this covered and everything. And they mentioned the Bonita bubbles thing. And I did take a look at it the other day. It's basically a tent over a frame.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Amy. I just had a couple of things. This Saturday, we do have the second annual fiesta. We've got a good turnout expected, some great music, some great food. I have been reminded that most events have some speed bumps along the way, so I guess any speed bumps that we did have. We had a great meeting last night. It seems like those speed bumps are a thing of the past. I am reminded that when it comes to planning events for years and years and years, Laura, I don't think you're here, but Laura tells me I guess this is normal, so, and Arlene, right? So anyway, look forward to a great event. You are certainly all encouraged and welcome to be there. If you did want to show up at 7 o'clock, we're going to recognize people. The event starts at 4, and based on last year, you know, they're trying to do the maximum attendance-wise, but this is for us to decide. If you guys want to make it earlier, that you're there to be recognized, we can certainly do that. Their suggestion at the outreach committee last night was 7 for a maximum kind of crowd to be there. But look, I've adjusted times when I've showed up at things, and you know, we're talking to 10 people to get recognized, or because I know 7 might be late for some folks. But what do you think? Do you have a suggested time?
The earlier the better. I have our awards banquet starts at 5:30
Yeah.
for the fire department on that day. We're having a derby theme, so
Mhm.
I won't. If it's any later than 5:30, I can't make it. But that's fine. Don't.
Amy,
please
do you
don't
have a,
change it
no,
for
I
me.
no, I understand. Amy, do you have a preference?
Not really, no.
Not really? You might not even be feeling up to
Yeah,
it.
I don't know, we'll see what happens.
Laura? 7? 7 o'clock?
I got a Kentucky Derby party like half the world does, so 7 would be all right if I go over and come back. Kind of hate to do that, but.
Yeah, well, what time's the Derby?
5:30.
5:30?
Something like that, isn't it? Or
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Derby will be on there, but I understand it's not a Derby party, so. per se.
No, but that's good.
7 o'clock?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mike, is that all right? Yeah, why not? Fred? Too late for you?
Do we get Fred
No, no.
free
Well,
food?
you know,
It's
Fred's
early.
up at 3 a.m.,
No, no,
4
it's
a.m.,
early,
so,
yeah.
okay. 7 it is, so thank you. Look forward to, sorry, Greg, you can't make it, but love to have you there.
At 7, I may try and sneak over. I'm just, I don't
Yeah,
know.
okay.
It's our whole awards banquet, dinner, the whole 9 yards, so I don't know.
Right, yeah. No, I know, it's a busy evening, but thank you very much for everybody for that. I just got an email, I don't know, Arlene, I know you're on it, from Margaret Wurtzley. I never know how to say her name, Wurtzel. It says, register for an affordable housing program webinar. There are a few banks in Fort Myers that qualify as quote-unquote member financial institutions. Are you interested in having us apply for a $500,000 property acquisition for your affordable housing program? And maybe I'll just, we don't necessarily need a discussion, or a decision on this tonight. I'm happy to forward this, or actually, Arlene, will you forward it to council? Do you see it? She sent it at, today at 2:45. And it's a FHL bank out of Atlanta. I don't know, if you have it, Arlene, if you see it there, it says applications for affordable housing program, this, that, and the other thing. So, why don't we take a peek and, yeah, thanks, Arlene, if you could do that. I'm just trying to see. All right, so bottom line, deadline is July 2nd. So take a peek, council, and if it's something we think we want to do, we can do that, so.
Okay.
Great, thanks, everybody. Any other closing thoughts?
No, good job.
Okay.
Hurry up.
Okay, dynamite. Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna move on now. Approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Third, fourth. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman
Okay.
O'Flynn.
Aye.
Sorry. Okay, public comment. Members of the public that would like to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.